Welcome, everybody, back to some more NACE Starleague collegiate esports action. We got Rocket League on the docket, and my name is Danger Taco, and I'm joined with Squid next to me, and we're going to be bringing you through the action on the evening. Squid, my friend, my brother, how you feeling lately?
Well, I don't know about brother. I'm going to have to consult my parents on that one, but I'm feeling rather good outside of the fact that I may have a long-lost sibling suddenly. But yeah, it's great. Always nice to be back in the booth with you. And of course, here for NACE, Starleague could not be more excited for collegiate esports. But before we delve too far much into that, we got one thing we need to mention here is that we are being sponsored by Gunnar Optics for tonight, which is one of the premier producers of gaming glasses. It's been protecting gamers for 15 plus years and helping their performance as well.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I like in a company because blue light glasses, when they first came out, I was like, cool, you wear glasses, you maybe look edgy, but like, who are you wearing those for? Is it like a benefit to you? But then over time, I've worked in labs, sleep research labs within clinical psychology that focus on blue light. Essentially, the more blue light you get, so a lot of the lights that you get from the sun, from just in general any LED screens or something, from your phone, from your monitor, they all suppress melatonin, the chemical in your brain that really helps you fall asleep and stay asleep and be rested. It's why eye masks are really useful, but sometimes you don't want to blind yourself during your day. You just want to be able to look at your screens and not have as much eye strain from looking at screens too long. You don't want to stay up forever, and so getting glasses like this with Gunnar being able to suppress that blue light that actually enters your eye, super helpful. I use them in pretty much everyday life, so I'm super glad that I get to work on a broadcast in which Gunnar gets to help out, because products like this are things that especially people who spend a lot of time looking at screens, gamers or not, could definitely use in their day-to-day life. So nice to be able to give them a little bit of platform to show off their product.
Yeah, and they have plenty of different lens choices as well, from clear, which blocks 35% of blue light, all the way up to amber max, which is 98% blockage of blue light. I mean, you can hardly get much better than that, Taco. So if you're trying to do all the things that you said, can't exactly get all that information in one 30-second crash course from you. But if you're trying to do all those things, block out the blue light, then there you go. Pick up some Amber Max lens from Gunnar. We do have a discount code on the screen right now. I believe it's 20% off, if I'm not mistaken, which is a sizable sum of money, especially if you're someone like we are, and money is not exactly the number one resource that we have. But I will say it is quite the nice discount for a quality product nonetheless. So we want to give a huge shout out to Gunnar, but we do have Collegiate Rocket League, although we do have a little bit more of that. So let's take a quick look at our schedule here, Taco, to see what exactly we got going on for the rest of the week.
Yeah, and we may not be wealthy by ourselves in terms of actual money, but we are wealthy in content for the week here on NACE Starleague. We have Rocket League and Overwatch traditionally being broadcast on Mondays. Then taking a little bit of a stroll down the week, we'll go into League of Legends, which will be broadcast on Tuesdays. Our Call of Duty League will also have a feature on Wednesday, and then we round out that weekday really span of esport action here for NACE with CSGO on Friday, all 7 p.m. Eastern time starting on the broadcast. And so really, no matter what you're into on NACE, you can have it featured here up on the screen, up on these lights, and get these players to perform. But for right now, we're focused on Rocket League, and we got our first matchup of Northeastern University and the University of Connecticut. A banger matchup, if ever there was one, to start things off on the broadcast.
Yeah, Northeastern coming in strong with a 2-0 start to their season. UConn right up behind at 1-1. But Taco, you and I both know this is a Northeastern University team that has done a significant amount of damage to some of the lower CRL teams here in the past. For those of you who don't know, that is basically the premier league for collegiate. And they've kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel for that one. They've gotten close, but they haven't quite made it there. So right now in Starleague, this is going to be one of their chances to take down one of these secondary leagues, right? Placed incredibly highly, and to me, it's going to be a very strong start of the season for them, if not an entire season as a whole.
Yeah, and of course, collegiate leagues, you have to be consistent across all of them. A lot of teams are involved in a lot of different pies, essentially have a finger in each one of them to be able to keep their form up. And of course, this league being able to play against regional rivals, very important. Northeastern, as you mentioned, a very dangerous team within the Eastern Conference, which is saying something considering the East, if those of you who are well informed about the college scene or even not, the short and the small of it is just that the East is incredibly stacked with talent, and Northeastern is no exception. UConn is an up-and-coming team. I've been lucky enough to be able to cast for them in other leagues around the collegiate scene, and they're doing a lot of damage. They get very far in a lot of those tournaments. They've even gotten close to winning those championships in their regions, in their conferences. So I think all these teams season to season get better. They build chemistry, have a team full of freshmen coming together, and all of that builds and culminates semester after semester. And I think this is where we, in a way, have built a Northeastern, a very storied program ever since the very first season of that full Psionic-sponsored Collegiate Rocket League. And then you see University of Connecticut, who is kind of the young upstarts. They're trying to get themselves into that anthology of Eastern Conference teams that have made such a storied run in so many other competitions.
And I gotta admit, Taco, it's a little bit ironic you bring up Season 1 of CRL. Of course, Northeastern did take that. It was a completely different roster. As I recall, they had... Oh, my goodness. Hang on. I'm gonna screw this up. Hang on. We had Floms, we had Shark Party, and Mercurial. That was the roster of 3. Nobody's going to be showing up on the pitch here today, but I promise you, Jay Frazier, Synthex, and Peeps are an incredible trio in their own right. And then on the other end, University of Connecticut. They actually had their own right in the past to claim that they were a top-tier team. And it's a little bit crazy to see how the mighty have fallen, right? The way that CRL has evolved. There are some teams that haven't really had too much of a change like that. Ohio State is one that I'm thinking of. They almost took down Northeastern in Season 1 of CRL, and they're still one of the top teams. They still consistently make it into the top of the East, which you mentioned was a very competitive conference. But then you have UConn, like I said, and Northeastern, who are, historically they were top tier teams, but now they're kind of on the outskirts, looking in, trying to find their way into the top. And now we have them facing off here against each other. As you mentioned, Taco, University of Connecticut, I want to see them do some damage, especially against this Northeastern team. This would be a perfect opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and so getting these teams kicked off is going to be a very exciting thing, and we're just waiting for all the players to be able to kick off and be able to start this one off. One thing I'm really looking forward to is to see this game one in the style of play that we do see. I think we're seeing an evolution in a lot of collegiate play. It's getting a lot faster within Rocket League, and it's getting a lot more cohesive. And ultimately, the teams that succeed, it used to really just be you could just throw a bunch of good players on a team and it works. But sometimes chemistry is, I would say, much more important to the success of the team. A lot of teams are greater than the sum of their individual parts. And so I think this might be a storyline I'm looking for. I would say if I had to put it on paper, Northeastern does have the edge here, but UConn has been playing together for so long and they've been in so many competitions. So I think at the very least they could balance each other out. So I'm very curious to see these players get kicked off and see really the back and forth that we do see in game number 1.
I do believe we have the players in the lobby, but we are waiting on confirmation from the admin to get things underway. But we can still talk a little bit more about what's going on here in the Starleague, right? We're only in week 3 of play. This is week 2 of streamed matches, and we didn't really discuss too much about what's going on. So we are here in Northeast Division 1, as you probably guessed, Northeastern facing off against UConn, but there are alternative divisions as well throughout the Northeast and throughout the East as a whole. In particular, Taco, I think you and I are most likely looking at the Midwest Conference. That is the area where you have a lot of heavy hitters. We do have U of M, although they are fielding their B team for the Starleague. They would have been a deadly force if not for that. We do have Northwood playing with Noxus, T. Carell, and I think one other player. I didn't see who else they have. I think it's Lion Blaze playing with them. I could be very wrong on that one, so make sure to double check that one. So Northwood, an incredibly dangerous force, as they always are. And Akron is also in the Starleague conference here in the Midwest. So there are quite a few teams that you have to look out for outside of this. So this is just assuming that you make it out of Northeast 1, right? So for UConn and Northeastern University, it's right here and now, but it could very easily transition into something a little bit more dangerous in the future.
Okay, and I think that's one thing that is really important for these players is to come out right out of the gate and play this game, but we're gonna have to put them right back into the gate for a temporary break because we actually had a player have a fire alarm go off during our setup of the game. So we'll tell you guys to a brief break, but we'll be right back with some more NACE Starleague to start off our broadcast day. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for that brief break. Right as we threw you guys away, we had the player come back. They are in the chair, and now they're in the lobby, and we can kick things off here. It is going to be Northeastern University against a University of Connecticut. Game 1 underway, best of 5, and seeing if this team can continue their ascent if you're Northeastern, or trying to level things out if they're UConn. A lot of questions ahead, but all those answers, luckily, will be waiting for us onto the field.
That they will, and it looks like we got the players ready to go. As you mentioned, they're in the chairs. Hopefully they got their high-quality gaming chairs down. That would be amazing. And already, goal number 1 going to be scored here for Northeastern. I believe that's Syntax using a quite unorthodox name there. Taco, but he does the work anyways.
Yeah, and some of these players having fun with it. And right now, it seems like these players right out the gate teaching everybody why it's so important to treat kickoffs as if they are not just a simple restart and you're getting back into the 5-fly in action, but you very much so have to treat them so seriously. Syntax with the alpha boost and all, really showing everybody why you gotta play heads up Rocket League. UConn getting dealt a lesson right off the bat.
And let's see if they have a response in store. There's only 20 seconds and some change off the clock here, Taco, so plenty of damage still yet to be done. A nice demolition there. Didn't have a follow-up in store. Still a good idea nonetheless. We return to the midfield, and you got to watch out for the Northeastern passes. You got a slight taste of it there as Frazier was looking for Syntax in the mid, but we've seen them get fairly creative with those passing lanes, especially as they're trying to transition downfield. So I think that's going to be a huge point of contention for Connecticut as we get underway.
Yeah, UConn has definitely settled in. I like how they're playing a lot more conservative and not necessarily scared, but they are eventually going to get an opportunity. I thought that was a clear, but instead it's Droy's hitting it in from the tough angle.
And this is the kind of tenacity that you have to have. If you see that Frazier is going to place low on that ball, you give him the pressure. You absolutely have to be able to see those kinds of opportunities when they present themselves and apply the punishment, right? You just have to let him know, like, hey, we're not just going to give you that kind of space. You want to play a controlled game, guess again.
So we'll see if that is going to turn the tables, as it were. Syntax might have other plans as to try to play slow. Disaster will cut that out. Now follow it up with an attempted pass, but someone's getting sent to the Shadow Realm. Northeastern working in the demo play, disrupting the UConn offense. And even though we've seen, as I was saying, UConn was playing a bit hesitant, kind of waiting for mistakes. It's a strategy that does pay off, though. Curious to see if Northeastern is going to tighten the ship a bit, as this is still game number 1. Always this type of warm-up atmosphere, as we see demos continuing to rain down from Northeastern, though. That time, they're not going to get that hit, that pay dirt.
And they keep it level here, but for UConn, this is a pretty good look for them, as I mentioned. Northeastern is a tough cookie coming into this division. They were probably the ones they were looking out for the most, if not scrimming. I don't know exactly what their training regimen looks like, but I would not be surprised if they're putting in that kind of grind. It looks like it's starting to pay off, whatever they're doing. We're moving to the 3rd minute of gameplay now. UConn did have a limited control there. The demolition is certainly going to shut things down. Frazier way up high, maybe a secondary touch, and will make contact. Hardly do much with it. Peeves off the backboard now. That's a huge opportunity for Syntax, but there's no angle to be found. Just too wide of the target. We'll move into halftime now. It's UConnect. Or sorry, excuse me. University.
Whole different competition.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I see UConn, and that's the first thing I think of. I gotta be honest with you. But the Connecticut moving into the attack.
There's a sponsorship somewhere there. We can talk to some people.
Yes.
But at least it's nice to see from UConn. They're holding things down. I feel like Northeastern's attack is doing fairly well to be able to get shots off, but like you said, the angle's just not quite there. It's almost like they set up the play, but they're a bit too close to the rebound, and they can't get all the oomph behind the shot that they're looking for. And now they're going back to some solo plays, really just getting creative, breaking down this UConn defense. It seems to be working to keep them off balance, but they're still not finding success. A 150 right on target, but it's going to hit the framework instead.
Well, it looked like a good opportunity, too. I think Disaster got a little piece of it to send it up and away. That's something they've got to be thankful for on the backside, but Northeastern is getting so much closer here to that goal line, and it's getting a little bit concerning. Syntax, I think they wanted a double, but there simply was no angle on that one, but they're still going to recur into the zone here. Frazier with the cross. It's applying so much pressure here to UConn to get this one away, and again, Anton forced to go to the sidewall. Not much control here. Just going to break down at some point if they keep up like this, and there's the shot off the crossbar and away. They get away with murder on that one, Taco, but they've still got to hold on for 70 seconds if they want OT.
really speaks to the accuracy of both these teams. I feel like Northeastern is really dictating the flow of the play, and yet they only have 2 more shots in total than UConn has, even though UConn has been able to convert on half of them. So it's up to UConn to make sure they get out, but not give away anything too crazy in front of net. Anton learned a lesson last time. They're going to cut this out. Now Droy's trying to find a pass. That's an awkward bounce. No one for Northeastern's there. Disaster jumping from a distance. No contact. I think playing the 50. You can tell UConn, even when they're trying to break out of their backfield, it's almost coming with this amount of saying that even though we know we can move up, even though we know we can expend that boost, might not be worth it. We don't want to give up that counterattack. They're going back to that cautious playstyle. I don't know if that's the move, especially if you have the ability to go forward. They're giving you space. You got to take it.
They do, and it looks like they're trying to do exactly that. Droy's off the backboard with that secondary touch. I like that idea. Anton forced away by Synthex. No contact there from Peeps. This could still be a play. Disaster going to inherit this ball. It's the fake around 1. The pinch way up high now. Synthex, that's a little bit too weak. Across now, but there's no passing target here. They're going to have to go wide with it and will be set down into OT for game 1.
So going into overtime, this is a very even game, and it's mostly been Northeastern for the most part, but at the end, we saw UConn getting golden opportunities, a couple open shots. Jay Frazier just barely getting the save on the last second. And so going into OT, you have to think Northeastern has this game, but they really haven't been showing up. It's all about execution. I think it's something that UConn has been able to show. Northeastern really just kind of throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. Right now, trying to mount up yet another attack, something done really well so far, but the UConn defense still holding, and they get a clear out for Peebs. Up to Anton. Frazier, good suspension. Synthex unobstructed, and again, just not quite the accuracy they're looking for.
I think Synthex might have taken that one just a little bit too quickly. And granted, it did coincide with something I was thinking in my head, right? Which is that I don't think either of these teams are getting the passing lanes that they want. But when you have an opportunity that's as open as that, some form of communication, whether it's you seeing it by yourself or your teammates calling it out to you, that has to be communicated as a completely open shot. You cannot afford to panic in that moment. If you think you can't get it past the defender, at least make a pass out of it. But you have to know that that is an open ball. We'll get a chance here, but nobody is around to take that pass from Frazier. Almost all the way downfield. That's off the post and away. And that was a close call for Northeastern. I think they understood that that one was out, but still a little bit nerve-wracking.
Roy's going to try to keep those nerves a-rattling as he's throwing it down the line. Anton trying an infield pass, a rare thing seen from UConn, but it does generate a lot of pressure. Anton trying to drop it in, but Peeves will cut it out. Droy's one more, and the demos will continue on for Northeastern. It's able to buy him a little bit of time, but UConn wants to strike back, getting some demos of their own. Frustration maybe showing in the gameplay of these two squads. We're still looking 2 minutes in, and there's a heck of an opener to the series for game 1.
And it is, and I love that drive. Jay Frazier with the flip reset. Droyce makes the save. Well read and well forced there by Anton to get that flip reset option out of the way so the last defender could effectively defend that ball. Very nicely done. Still a lot of pressure put on by that single solo play from Jay Frazier. That's exactly the kind of pressure they need. Peeps for a shot here. Droyce, oh, that's so close, and Frazier will put it away. Northeastern have game 1.
The amount of times this exact play has happened, UConn goes off the wall trying to hit a ball, and it's almost like they're hoping for a 50, and then nothing comes in, and it's dunked in immediately. And finally, the pressure from Northeastern will pay off. They get their game 1 victory, but they had to go to overtime to show it. And I'm not even going to say that this is just a game that Northeastern was throwing shots. It's almost like a waiting game. You're just looking for that goal to inevitably go in, because UConn had a lot of great looks. Northeastern, your offense is great, but you cannot forget to make sure that you cover all of those counterattack avenues that UConn keeps trying to perpetrate within, because they're getting very close. A pixel one side or the other from the post, and this could be a very different game 1.
Yeah, and I've got to be honest, this may have gone the way of NEU, but I still very much liked what I saw from Connecticut. And I think that mostly comes in the form of... Sorry, I just looked at your name, Taco. You were always changing it. Jeff's Taco. Oh, my... Anyways, so... What I was going to say about Connecticut, though, is that I was very much enjoying their individual pressure when they were making those pushes. It wasn't necessarily the counterattack, I would posit, because we usually see passing plays, the one-timers out in the middle. That's basically a gambit to try and put that ball back in the net before your opponents can effectively recover. But no, what I saw them do the best when they were on the offense was that they would keep that second man just close enough behind the first player where they could back up the 50-50 in the event that it went neutral and keep that rotation, at least in a neutral standpoint where Northeastern could not effectively push them back into defense, but simultaneously being far enough away in that second man slot to support the first in case that one got into the middle. That's the kind of superbly impactful individual rotation you want to see when you're out on attack. So for UConn, that honestly is a huge takeaway. If they can get a little bit more offense, this might be a game changer.
I like them implementing some demo plays, but more specifically, I like the infield passes. Northeastern almost seems to just rotate right back to their goal line. They're going to give you that midfield. Better take advantage of it. So game number 2, they have their notes on things to work on. See if they are as good of a students on the RL pitch as they are off. So we're going to start off with UConn trying to implement some of those changes. A lot more dynamic in the approach, using the wall, but will not find that secondary contact. Anton going to fake off the front. Synthex, solid 50, and the slow play from Northeastern will get past player, but we're back into midfield, and this is, I think, the stability I was hoping for from both teams, as we're seeing a much more back and forth play style out of both sides within the first minute.
It was precisely that mind game I just talked about previously. You saw Synthex playing for the 50, trying to keep it under control as opposed to just dumping it away, right, with that pass. It's precisely what I was just commending UConn for doing in the attacking half. And I did see a limited amount of that in their defensive rotation as well, but that point aside, we do move back into the blue end now. A nice demo there from Disaster will force Synthex onto the ball, but there's nobody to back it up here for Connecticut. They will get it back into the attacking zone. Anton even looking for a shot. No, it's on the backboard. Frazier a bit awkward on this one. It could have turned dangerous, but they just did not have the gusto to get somebody downfield fast enough.
Anton playing the savior, avoiding another demo coming in as Synthex continues to be a cyberbully and just bother all the UConn defenders. They're actually able to build it into a ceiling shot attempt. Anton keeping it interesting into the corner. Droiz, bit of a late challenge, but does get enough on it. Anton, another pop, and finally clear from Northeastern will buy them some more time, but Northeastern defense, it's like, I do like their ability to slow the play down, but they really have to keep an eye in the backfield. It seems like every single time they try to slow things down, UConn is looking to push the issue, put them into the graveyard, and trying to get them shortchanged. And it's only a matter of time before that starts working out. I think UConn is looking a lot more stable here, and as long as the defense holds, I think this is a good foundation from which to build offense.
That is true, but I think the little asterisk that you added, the caveat of the defense holding, may soon prove unfruitful, as Northeastern have been getting very aggressive with their physical plays. That has been a staple, I think, on both defensive ends. Peebs over to Synthex. That one's just a little bit wide of the net. A good idea for sure. Frazier, maybe even looking for a dunk on this one, is unable to find Paydirt, though. We'll get away. The team bumps there certainly does not help. Peebs getting bullied out of the way now. Enjoys with full boost. There's still plenty of options here for UConn.
A little bit rushed there. Droiz was trying to pass that down, I think, and then didn't get above it as much as they would like. You still get a pass out, and Droiz is able to keep possession, maybe even a boost steal as well. They get the boost, not the ball. Disaster now. Cleaning things up. Anton going to the backboard, maybe. Very creative approach. One more pass out. Perfect find of Droiz, but he's going to put it just a little bit wide. I love what I'm seeing, though. The creative play certainly keeping Northeastern on their toes.
With a double demo here, this is going to favor NAU unless the shot comes in right here, and Anton unable to get it inside of the uprights. Peebs of a chance. 1v1 off the backboard. This could still be scoreable, but Anton so quick to that ball. Finds Droiz with the pass. Synthex is there to meet it. Can't win on that 50-50. It's those small moments that are incredibly key when it comes to a game of Rocket League. It decides who gets the possession, who's able to drive downfield and take boost control. So many factors at play. It allows the pace to change in your favor if you can win those kinds of 50s in the midfield. That's why people always tend to say, right? The game is really won in the midfield, in that neutral game. And NAU right now on the attack, forces double commit here on the back end. A shot from Synthex. Frazier almost snipes it into the upper 90. Not quite. Droiz can't get contact. Off the crossbar again. Synthex will finally put it away. And Northeastern had the lead late in game 2.
It's almost like UConn was waiting for their opportunity to clear it instead of just getting on top of it. Low on boost, low on confidence on these reads, but Synthex knows you don't need something pretty. You need something on target. You need contact on the ball, period. And he gets it done. First goal, we had to wait 4 minutes for it, but that could be a decisive goal, especially how close this game has been.
I really want to see UConn get that defensive basis established, though. We saw them allow 3 shots in a row. Frazier, Peebs, and Synthex all putting one on target. Disaster trying to carry the team here. Does force a double commit. Anton off the backboard. That's a great pass. excellent piece of real estate. Does again forces a double commit, but there's nobody there to try to punish off that one taco. I mean, it breaks my heart to see such a well put together play there just go to complete waste. And now the final 30 seconds, they're really grasping at straws here for a chance, but it was a pass from Synthex over to Disaster. That spells disaster.
And they make sense in concept. This is a good back pass. You have Peebs back, but you need to hit it right at the goalie, basically, because otherwise you're just throwing one up for anyone to grab. And Disaster will say thank you very much. Still a lot to do, but he places the shot well. 1-1. And I said it was a decisive goal. Didn't bar a mistake. How about a kickoff goal? Anton, they're going to miss, but Troy set up for the open shot. A great recovery by Synthex. And on the counter, Peebs is going to get rewarded from Disaster to absolute counterattack perfection.
You cannot allow this to happen, though, for Connecticut. It only takes one person to drive that in. And if you think that you know who that person is, then there's no reason for you to even stick in the opposing box. You have to be reinforcing the potential options in Synthex coming up clutch for Northeastern. And now this one just going to be the heartbreaker on top of the heartbreaker, as Peeves will get a freebie out in front.
Double order of heartbreak. Really bad. Also incredibly terrible for your body. But Northeastern getting rewarded, throwing the ball in dangerous areas. And really, that's just salt in the wound. UConn, I think, had morale-wise and otherwise have lost that game on that second goal. Because not only are you giving it up in the dying moments of the game, but it's such a back-breaking way to give it up. You have the counterattack, it's an open goal. And as you said, everyone rushes forward because you're so eager to put it in. And then, we all went forward. So that's another game that's just a mistake. It comes down to one tiny mistake. This might be a 2-0 game, but functionally, it really all came down to that Peebs counterattack.
That it did. And like I said, Synthex really coming up clutch for the team. A goal and 2 assists and 2 saves. Peebs actually has the same stat line. Well, a similar stat line. 2 goals, 1 assist, and 2 saves. But still, I mean, that one hurts. Anybody who's ever played a modicum of competitive Rocket League or watched it in their lives has seen something like that happen. And it has either been for you or against you. One way or the other, lots of us have seen both. And we know what it feels like to be on both sides of that ball, Taco, especially in the dying moments. A 2-goal swing that ends up losing you game 2. I mean, that was literally a tied series going to now you have to reverse sweep in the span of about 5 seconds.
Yeah, and a lot of it is about option coverage. Some things are likely to happen. Some things are most likely going to happen. And then maybe some things in the back of your mind you might consider, but you might not. Synthex getting a crazy from the backboard straight down missile pinch into the ground and bouncing up over the third defender. Pretty hard to predict that, but there's no reason to go up anyway. Stay back, secure the back line, play for OT, and they paid the price. So instead, we're going to be going into Game 3, a match point game for Northeastern, and they're going to try to close things out.
I will say, Taco, the number one thing I always tell people whenever I give them advice on how to rotate more effectively or how to position more effectively or how to think more effectively, the first and foremost thing is always, if you are tied or leading, your number one priority should always be to defend your own net. At no point should you prioritize an attempt at scoring on the opponents versus defending your own net. So if you think that you're in danger in any way, shape, or form, you should be prioritizing that first and foremost. And it's just one of those moments where Connecticut thought they had it under control, right? It was just a misinterpretation of the situation. Synthex came out of nowhere and put their hopes and dreams in the grave.
One thing that we can look forward to with UConn is that they are building some offense. They're getting good shots off, and they're really taking Northeastern to the brink sometimes on defense. They're really just barely getting some touches off, and that is the thing that I think UConn can find some merit in, especially if Peebs isn't going to deal with those clears. Droyce comes up for it, but getting interfered with in the air will only be able to put it wide. Frazier to midfield will generate a double commit. Droy's not jumping at it and trying to bump Synthex out of the way. I think that boost might have just barely gotten stolen from him, so Droyce will be able to get the air dribble out and secure some further possession. Some more actual absent-mindedness defended from Northeastern. That's yet again, they let a ball fall in front of their goal, but last-second saves will bail them out yet again.
Oh, Disaster wanted that flip reset. Almost had it, too. That would have been a game-changer for that particular drive. Connecticut, they are looking good on the offense here. I think that you mentioned a little bit of hasty play from Northeastern, or perhaps even a lack thereof. I mean, you could really argue either way in certain contexts, but to move now into the 3rd minute of gameplay, it has looked like a Connecticut-sided game, and Tom looking for a little bit more on this one, but hardly has anything to speak of. Now Frazier in the 1v1, tries to go low, no success there against Disaster. Synthex, okay, I mean, it looks cool. If this was a freestyle competition, he'd probably get a lot of points for that, I'll be honest.
At the end of the day, I like plays like that. If you don't have an immediate pass and you're just trying to buy time for your teammates to rotate in position, why not just air dribble in plays? Unfortunately, it doesn't do much, but it did make UConn second guess just for a half second on whether or not they can challenge that. They don't want to get beat over the top. So, if anything, this is another example of Northeastern being able to show off that skill, making sure that they remain in control. They don't want to throw the ball away on offense, and they're going to have to do a little bit better, though, than that if they want to break through. UConn is yet again into a close affair, as Week 3 and round robin play often show us, teams that are really neck and neck with each other. But I think it's just a slight difference in class. At the end of the day, Northeastern has their stuff together. They're not making as consistent of mistakes. I think UConn is being dealt that lesson in a very harsh way.
Perhaps that's true. I do have to think, though, that UConn, they are looking pretty good. I mean, as far as competing against Northeastern, who we touted as one of the better teams that could be found in the Northeast Division 1, this seems like a pretty good performance up till now. I mean, barring the fact that they're down 2-0, and Frazier is now looking for what seems to be some sort of a double tap. Unfortunately, the ballistic math was very slightly incorrect. He arrived at the same time as the ball. We're moving to the final 90 seconds, still scoreless here in Game 3. UConn staring down the barrel of being 3-0'd. Joy's not there in the mid for that pass. It looks good. I think they were trying to respect the zone coverage there from Frazier.
And a little bit too much respect being paid. I would like to see a bit more disrespect, get some demos in there, try to challenge, put the ball in awkward positions, make Northeastern actually fight for some of these clears. Long balls help, but that's really the only thing you bring to the table. It's not going to work out. Long balls like that, same story. Anton trade things up with Disaster. Onto the backboard. Heaves off their corner. Droiz is up for it. Might actually get a 50 and does. Kind of a weird bounce. Frazier lobs it up. Anton, they're uncontested. It's an open shot. They're going to bang it off of the frame. Frazier able to save it across, and the best chance of the game just barely goes to the side.
You got to give credit, though. Getting it around Peeps is going to be the hardest part of that shot. They almost sunk into the upper 90 regardless. They will have another attacking chance here, though. Oh, Droiz can't make contact. It hurts, but it only hurts a little bit, it seems. Ooh, Disaster, I believe, get bumped way out of the way there. Will allow Synthex a rather easy save, but UConn still have their hand in the basket here. Frazier, no touch off the back. Oh, Droiz, I like the idea. It's just too slow laterally. Will never get across the goal line at that pace, but still the pressure continues to mount here. Final 10 seconds, Frazier over to the sidewall. Disaster meets it, and Troy's not quite there in time. They do still keep it in the zone. That's the key. There's nobody in the net right now. Troy's, oh no, the crossbar. You gotta be joking, Taco. That was the play. Troy's almost put it away, but the dunk off the face-off will get the job done all the same. Oh my God, my heart is pounding here. I can't believe that.
Honestly, that feels deserved, and it's so unfortunate because Droiz almost hit two gift your game worthy clips there at the end, both going off the backboard, one off a pre-flip and one off just a crazy read, and then his two teammates combined for a 50 to put it in. Maybe not karmically what he deserved, but definitely what UConn deserved. Really interesting variety of approaches, using that backboard as an offensive weapon beyond just a surface to bounce the ball off of. And eventually that pressure paid off. But talking about that, Northeastern, it seemed back and forth, but when you look at the stats, it's anything but. One shot for Northeastern, 9 for UConn down the stretch of that game, and only one goal to tear them apart yet again.
Yeah, it is a little bit ridiculous. I have to admit, though, Droiz, I noticed some particular performance issues earlier on, and I don't mean in a big way, mind you. I mean just things like, oh, he had a shot and he put it just wide, right? Or it was just a situation where it was like, oh, that touch wasn't quite optimal, right? I'm not talking like Droiz just straight up missed that ball. Droiz, I think, has kind of shaken that to this point, and now Connecticut, I mean, we just saw the results, right? Droiz looked a lot more solid in that game, and they had 9 shots in comparison to 1 from NEU. Coincidence? Maybe, who knows, but still, we get into Game 4 now. UConn have 1 under their belt. They can take this, it's completely equalized, and despite the stigma of reverse sweeps being incredibly hard, it's just 1 game of Rocket League. At the end of the day, it's always just 1 game of Rocket League, and Droiz already at the backboard to Anton for goal number 1.
A lot of thumb twiddling in the background. Is everyone waiting for this ball to go down? Frazier maybe wanted a better angle, but Anton knows, much like Synthex knew in previous games, it's not about placement. It's about getting a touch on it. No contest from Northeastern, and that's going to go in early from UConn. The momentum keeps on plowing straight ahead. They're going to get an early goal and maybe something else if Droids isn't closed down on, trying to fake underneath Peebs. Disaster, tough angle, and they're going to met with the post. Droids on the follow, top shelf, and for the first time in quite a while, we got a 2-goal margin, but it's within the first 30 seconds.
Still a great 50-50 there from Droids initially, getting that one off the opposing backboard, and Disaster, although they may have been unable to put it within the uprights. Some good physical play, and it ended up being a halfway decent pass over to Droids, who's able to recur into the attacking zone, and it really looks like they have found their footing. Droids wants more glory. What in the world is this? I think they had the double tap angle too, but it was Peebs getting a little bit in the way. No more highlight reel worthy clips today. I think that's going to be Peebs' little bit of a motto there, unless it's an NEU one, of course, but either way, they're going to have to formulate a response here. This looked like the perfect chance, but Disaster gets in the way.
Frazier is trying to build something. Droids will predict it, but even though they're not getting any contact, it will yield to Synthex as the third man. Beats past one. A bit flick past second, but too rich for Frazier. They're waiting on the back post, but they need to be even farther back. And UConn is rotating in very carefully and very conscientiously through a lot of these touches, making sure that they're not giving away too many of the dangerous plays. And it doesn't seem to be something that NEU can figure out for the moment. Getting frustrated as they were last game, not getting off a lot of shots, but demos, like it had worked for them in previous games, might work out. Droids off the side of the goal and out. Very low boost play, but they all count the same. One more shot from Frazier, and yet again, just gonna go over the bar. Disaster will clear it all the way down. Synthex can't reach it, and there's number 3 for the Huskies.
And I think Frazier, that touch was very slightly, I say very slightly, suboptimal, which is code word for it was like the last thing NEU was expecting. Nobody was prepared for that one. As you just mentioned, Synthex was the first person back, and they had not a chance to make that kind of a play with that kind of speed. There still is an opportunity for Northeastern to come back in this game. 3 goals is quite the margin, though. 3 minutes and 10 seconds is a lot of time to deal with, and they have had a not insignificant amount of time in the offense. This will be a shot from Peebs that is easily saved. At least they have the tenacity, I suspect, to get back in this one.
Disaster, I love the awareness, calling off their teammates, saying I'm just going to turn on this, and even though it's not a clear down or a goal, it does push them up, but unfortunately what followed was less than optimal as well. Finally a shot going in. Peebs is 4th of the game, but the first goal for Northeastern gives them a little sign of life as we're approaching halftime.
Yeah, and I actually have to admit, you mentioned the heads-up play there from Disaster. It was rather good, but Peebs also noticed what was going on there and knew the cutoff was coming, and therefore waited on it. And now Synthex in the 1v1 almost gets the bump. I like the idea, but no dice at the end of the day. Just moving into the second half very shortly here, Taco, and I've got to admit, I've seen a couple of good things now from Northeastern, and I say that, of course, they've been spending the majority of the time on the offensive side, but this is not one of them here. Peebs in a very awkward spot is able to make contact in an effective way. Disaster flew by that one. Moments from death on that play were NEU.
Disaster's gonna lob a high one, no one up with them, so they'll try for a flip reset, no contact, but sometimes those are just as lethal. Gives Droids some time for steal, but Frazier has enough of a peek at the ball to get that longer clear down. They need to push it forward, but fortunately, we're going to have to settle in is that there's no real need to panic. It's a 2-goal game with 2 minutes to go, but sooner or later, it's making that decision, that kind of higher level cognitive decision to make sure, hey, we kind of need to press the issue soon. Otherwise, we're going to be facing a game number 5. And I think Northeastern very quickly reaching that point as yet another ball just going to lob so tantalizingly in the middle, but will be cleared out by UConn. Synthex will dig out one more shot, but well to the near post and another long clear for them to deal with.
Thanks, and I see 2 players going for the mid boost there for NEU, and it almost caused a very slight inconvenience in another goal against. So perhaps they're getting slightly aggressive on those rotations, but still no punishment for it here and now. 75 seconds now left on the board. they've still got their work cut out for them. Anton, no contact here. It's now 1v1 back the other way if Frazier can play his cards right, and not quite. Peeves in the zone trying to make this read, but unable to beat Droy's out. And now the pass into the mid is just a complete wash. Syntax was forced to rotate back off that physical play. Moving to the final minute, and NEU looks like they're really struggling to come up for air here, Taco.
Yeah, they're doing a good job to cut out the counterattacks, but one thing I feel like is lacking is that they keep trying to go back to these solo plays or just going off the backboard. I would like them to look for an infield pass, even though that these demos are opening up and making UConn panic. They're dealing with it well. It's kind of like Disaster left alone, air dribbles to the backboard and pinches it to the corner. This is a confident UConn team. I don't think we saw it earlier, but now this is, I think, the final form that NEU was fearing to play against, and they're 20 seconds away from facing down a reverse sweep, and I think I can say that with a bit more certainty now with another counterattack finding its way in.
This just hurts to watch. NEU, they have the aggressive nature, right? Problem being, when you have 3 players in your corner and you go for a pass that goes out of the corner, who's going to receive it? See, this is one of those things we like to call a basic equation, and it seems like they are just not getting it together, right? They have all the puzzle pieces, right? They want to make passing plays. They've had some decent individual efforts. None of them have resulted in goals, mind you, but they have had decent individual efforts when it comes to gaining ground and driving downfield. Problem is, when they try to make these passing plays work out, they always miss one of the key elements. Whether that be getting a good initial touch that sets up your teammate for that one-timer, whether it be the finisher, right, putting an effective shot on target, whether it be making sure you have an open passing lane in the first place, right, that should probably come before anything. Even before you make that passing touch, you need to make sure that it's actually going to reach your target uncontested. There's so many things that go into it, and they always manage to miss one of those elements, and it screws them over every single time.
I think there is an element of frustration in teams like Northeastern in that individually, these are very skillful players, and they lack what we actually talked about in pregame. Some teams just don't work well together right now, and I feel like Northeastern, I'm seeing individual players being stitched together in a team environment, which is not the same as what UConn is doing, being very deliberate with hitting the ball into a dangerous position, not to solo it, not to keep the ball dangerous, but because they know a teammate can follow it better. They didn't do it well in the beginning of the series. They're doing it very well now, and they're on a streak of games that could end in the next 5 minutes with a reverse sweep over Northeastern, the undefeated team here in the Northeast Division 1, and that is certainly a blow you never want to have at any point, especially not early on in the season. We're just building confidence. Let's see if UConn has laid the foundation. Let's see if they can finish things off, and at least for right now, they're going back to that nice 50 in the midfield, and it's going to open up for Anton, but that shot not going to find the target, only Frazier's bumper.
And Syntax opting not to grab that corner boost. It displays to me just a little bit, Taco. And he did not trust Frazier to cover the whole net, right? Syntax needed to make sure that they had the opportunity to make the save no matter where that ball was. There was just that little bit of mistrust, and that hurts me. Jay Frazier has been one of the better players on this team for quite some time now, if you ask me. And it just hurts. We talked about the communication needs to be a little bit better, and I think that might be one of the key elements. Start at home, try to build from there. 1 minute is gone, and it looks like we've seen very few impactful opportunities on target up until now. But as UConn gets farther and farther into the attacking zone, I kind of fear for Northeastern, to be honest.
UConn almost seeing an overzealous approach as well. You see Disaster, a couple shots now. They were able to salvage that first one, getting a dunk and also the boost steal, but then the immediate follow-up, they just bounced the shot straight down. I want them to focus on getting consistent contacts. I think that's what's gotten them this far. That starts to fail them, then it's going to go right back to Northeastern pressure. Anton having to show off some defensive capabilities. Another save using the woodwork to their advantage. Miss on the near post, though, opens things up. Frazier, they catch it. They're playing it slow, and they will play it into the back of the net.
It was that initial pass that put on all the pressure. You can see Anton and Droy's in the corner here. The forced challenge was so easily made there by Peeps. And Taco, that was the first effective shot that we've seen, right? They got everything right. They put it in a dangerous spot. Anton was forced to use the crossbar to make that save, and it put them in complete disarray on the back end. The pass and the shot itself might not have been what scored them the goal, but it was certainly a catalyst to allow them to get their offense on point. And here again, Frazier with the demolition to assist them on the back end. There was never a chance.
We gave you a false sense of security, laughs Northeastern, of course, in their team comms. Now we're back to the physical play, but it comes from just kind of a lobbed ball in the midfield. No one's up for it, and smart play from Northeastern. They're not focused on getting back or maintaining structure. They know that as long as UConn is staring up at the sky at that ball, they are not looking at what's about to sideswipe you coming from the shadows. Good, well-timed demo, and now a 2-goal lead. This time, not coming from the side of the Huskies, but coming from Northeastern in the defense. Holding as well, good clear out. So both sides of the ball looking a lot more consistent as we're approaching halftime. Could get even worse with Peebs. A Droid's deflection, Dre Fraser pinching one in from a 0 angle for 3.
And Fraser not going to let up the gas anytime soon. This is the kind of pressure they needed before, but Droid's so unfortunate to get that touch that allows Fraser to even get a piece of that in the first place, because they can react so much easier than any of the UConn defenders can. And now with a 3-goal lead, they have to be feeling confident. And for Connecticut, I simply don't know if this is going to work out. But that save actually might be the key that they need. Synthex, not even like a play off it, Joyce to the mid. But guess what? There's no support. They're back. That play right there makes me worry that they might be back in the same kind of form that we saw earlier. That was definitely out of character as well. Disaster went for a long-winded save there.
Yeah, and right now it's just disarray. Peeb's gonna pound in another one, and we try to ramp things up. We're trying to see UConn get back into form, but the moment they start to hit some balls, it's like you said, they just go back into that initial play style. It's almost like they had carved out this niche of being able to generate all these unique opportunities, but then when things get tough, they go back to that default mode, and where they're just too spread out, they're waiting too long, they're not getting quality clears out, they're not finding teammates, and Northeastern just playing faster, putting on target, and they're getting rewarded for it. Great shooting accuracy so far, shooting 4 for 7. It's hard to beat a team shooting over 50% in any circumstance, but especially when half their offense is just throwing you back onto defense. Peebs almost getting yet another one as the third man, and UConn, at this point, they're not even looking for a counterattack. They're just looking for any ball that goes out of their half.
That is true, and I mean, I mentioned it before, but the number one objective right now for Northeastern is just defend your back end. You don't have to worry about scoring anymore. And I think that goes quadruple for them, having a 4-goal lead in the last 90 seconds here. It really seems quite hopeless here for UConn at this point. That one getting past Anton, the bump there on Joyce, that would have just been salt in the wound if Frazier had found that angle. Quite a ridiculous one, I might add. But at this point, I feel like anything that happens is a moot point. So I'm going to toss it in, especially with that redirect from Synthex. A nice shot to be sure. That one's a little bit of a cherry on top on the other side.
Yeah, and that's just a nice highlight. No matter how this series has gone, it's like, okay, well, we already won, but, you know, nice to get a clip or two. It's going to be a hat trick for Frazier, 1-goal piece for Peebs and Synthex. And I think this is really actually a great demonstration on air to start the broadcast, but also just the perils of playing Collegiate Rocket League oftentimes when you're playing against a team that's maybe more established. Northeastern came into this game and we said, yes, UConn's been together for a bit, but they haven't really found the same success, whereas a program like Northeastern has historically and also has gotten pretty far in quals, and they've been doing a lot of damage to teams. And you see they start to fall behind. It starts to get to game 5, and then everything goes back to normal. It's so hard to reverse sweep in general, but it's also, this is really what separates top teams from the teams that are still on the come up. It's the ability to, when the going gets tough, when you need to clutch up, being able to pull that performance out of a hat when you need it most. And right now, Northeastern is showing that. Not only have they answered back, but they have a solid back line, and UConn is just in disarray, and it feels like, what happened? And that's what's different. NEU is able to fix those mistakes and then capitalize on it when they need to, and UConn just can't handle that pressure and keep up that same pace.
Right, and you mentioned the mentality. It's one of the biggest things we talk about on any collegiate broadcast when it comes to Rocket League is we see teams like NEU that have been established, that have been playing for a long time, regardless of whether or not they're at the top of their game. It's the experience playing together that allows them to have a more fortuitous mentality when it comes down to the wire, right? And as the ball will fall here in their favor, it makes me hope that for UConn, they find as much success they did in games 3 and 4, because that was a phenomenal performance. This one was not really. 11 shots to 0. Let's just say that that's not really the optimal outcome for you, Taco. I think you might agree. You might agree with me on that one. But yeah, generally 11 shots to 0 is not what you're looking for. Northeastern, they just came out, they had the tenacity, right? It's the same thing that we see with top teams like Space Station Gaming. I mean, that was what their coach, Chrome, I might remind you, said was one of their biggest strengths, is their ability to basically say, okay, we lost this one, but we are going to come back in the next one, and we are going to be a whole new space station. And that was what set them apart in the last season of RLCS.
I think also one thing that especially comes up a lot within collegiate play, or really any esport in general, is when you lose a series, I think sometimes you just leave the game. You were like, God, this is rough. Okay, catch you guys later. And then you hang up on the call. But that's when you need to stay in the call and be like, okay, so who saved those replays, who's submitting those, and then look over those games. How did you lose? How did you win? And then try to spell out those patterns. I think the thing that was working really, really well for UConn throughout those games where they were on that comeback trail, on that game 3 and 4, was that they were not only challenging well in the midfield and getting on top of the touches, but every touch had a purpose. I felt like I wasn't seeing too many times where just throwing it downfield, whereas game number 5 starts off a little back and forth. It's a little bit of a chess match, and then Northeastern starts pulling up the pressure. Instead of UConn trying to deal with it a bit more economically, being able to tap to the corner, save some booth, they were kind of just clearing it down the field, and eventually Northeastern just keeps throwing it back in. It was like the center line for UConn was basically just another wall. It was bouncing right back in every single time, and so we see the 0 shots from UConn and assume their offense fell apart, but it's not even that. It's just part of defense is being able to consolidate possession and then build into offense. It's not always just getting those clears. I think they forgot about that. I think they started to panic. Maybe the mental stress just got to them. Who knows? But I think there's silver linings. UConn's got to find it if they want to clean things up. They have a losing record now, but plenty of time to go in this season.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting those clears downfield. We discussed it earlier on in the series, right, Taco, where the midfield is where games are won. And I think one of the biggest problems for UConn was that they never even got to the midfield, right? They were always on the back foot. You just talked about the whole reason why, so I'm not going to delve too far into that one. I'm sure we could sit here and talk for basically 30 minutes about the same series, but I don't think anybody wants to hear that. We do have an interview, I believe, coming up shortly with one of the victors. I hope we get Sid next, to be honest. He's quite the meme lord. Although I would love to hear Fraser's point of view as well, because we could break down some of the things that did go wrong for NAU, and in particular, we discussed the passing lanes, right? The passes that they were going for. Sometimes it was the individual plays, right? So they had issues on both fronts. Sometimes the individual looked great. Other times it was just stalling in the opposing half for time, which, objectively speaking, isn't necessarily bad, but it's not the greatest look when you're coming up against a UConn team that had a fantastic individual presence on the field when they moved down to offense.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those things that I really love out at Northeastern, of course, just being incredibly stacked, and they're able to throw things down, and it's very fortunate to see that they're able to get that win off, and they will be able to continue their streak. That's 3 games in a row for their 3rd week to be able to continue their dominance within their division. UConn back to the drawing board, but we will be back after a short break, but we got way more NACE Starleague action. We don't have any interview, but we do have 3 more matches. Next up is University of Michigan and University of Michigan at Flint, a nice interstate rivalry, so not going to want to miss that. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everybody. We just saw Northeastern take down UConn in a thrilling Game 5. Maybe Game 5 wasn't as thrilling as we would like, but a Starleague will roll on. We got their first dub. We got our first match out of the way. Now we're on to our second. It is going to be University of Michigan at Flint and their in-state rival, potentially, or at least just in-state university in general, University of Michigan. And I am, yet again, Dana Taco, joined by Squid in the, I guess we'd say, casting booth. We have different aesthetics. I have different lighting than you, but it's a very big booth, so we got to customize it, kind of like a Google Office.
Well, in one of these days, Taco, right? Just let me know when my lease is up. We can move in together, and then we can have like the casting studio. Okay, Loki though, I have kind of wanted to talk to somebody about like moving in somewhere and then having like a dedicated casting area. Right now, where I am, we actually do have a couple of people who are involved in production, so we've thought about it, but we've never executed on that idea.
What are the rates on a glass desk? You know, like a really professional, like those glass desks that they use on those broadcasts or news. I feel like we could buy that, put that in the room, get a nice DSLR in there. I mean, well, we're getting sidetracked. What we should be focusing on is this University of Michigan thing, but we could totally do that in the future. And so could UMich trying to improve. We actually were a bit surprised, though. UMich, very upstart program coming through the ranks of Collegiate Rocket League, but throwing a different lineup here for CSL. They're 1-1, and we had to look into it. This is technically their B team, and University of Michigan Flint, a team that maybe people have not heard of as much, but still very strong lineup. I was looking through names like Permafrost, like Azel and Hyde, all players that I recognize. And so I think even though this might be a very large titan of the state in the university structure versus a team that might be less known, this is two different kind of sister campuses, and yet this is a very competitive matchup, I think, that we have brewing.
And it is, and you mentioned the lack of the starting lineup here for the Wolverines, and, well, I guess they're both the Wolverines, aren't they? Might have to reword that. Anyhow, U of M, the actual Wolverines, that's how we're going to do it. We have the Wolverines and the actual Wolverines. So we got U of M not fielding their A roster, which does include Buddha and Clavin, as I'm not mistaken. I don't believe so. Buddha, Clavin, and Flamadiddle, as I recall. I'm probably wrong on
We
something.
got
I
Quap in
always,
there now.
yes, Quap. We
Yeah,
got Quap in place of Buddha. I was thinking to myself, I was like, that sounds wrong for some reason. There you go. That's the reason why. I always get something wrong. But on the other side, as you mentioned, we got Perma and Azel, which is the name, and then Gims, obviously. So we do have quite the strong roster on that side. I mean, Perma is not a name to be tossed around lightly. And then, of course, on the Wolverines side here, the actual Wolverines, I should say, Bobcat, Nickel, and Aventix, which is a player that we have seen before. Bobcat and Aventix, I think they've been playing as a part of the U of M roster for some time, and being secondary to the A team that they do have is not really a bad rep, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and this is we're also getting to the level in collegiate esports where some universities actually can actually recruit specific players, and they do have kind of these definitive A teams, but sometimes you just have a bunch of great players on your program, and you kind of have to make tough decisions of like, what even is the A team? And oftentimes you see teams kind of sidestep that issue. Guys, there's no A team. There's the blue team and the crimson team and the silver team, and you're like, okay, but you know, even despite saying that, a lot of depth on U Michigan in general. So I think from this UMich, even if it's technically the B team, maybe not the team that had gotten so far within Summer Series, within Collegiate Rocket League qualifiers, this is still a team that is going to be competitive within their league. And I think Flint is the upstart team, yet another incredibly talented team within just kind of the random, frantic dust ball that is the Eastern Conference within collegiate esports. It's just so stacked with talent. We got the players in the Labu, they're ready to go, and luckily we don't have to talk about it. We can see how this story is going to play out on the field. In-state rivalry will be put to bed here. Yes. Best of 5 ahead, and only one team going to come out victorious.
I find it ironic too. We got the in-state rivalry, which is probably substitute, right, to the in-state rivalry that we usually have between Michigan State and U of M. So I'm just glad, you know, I said this on Twitter before the stream started. I'm just glad we got the Midwest representing out here, if I'm being honest, Taco. So I'm super stoked about that. Are you actually a Midwest native? I don't remember. I know I am.
No, I am from New York, but I'm currently in Chicago,
yeah.
so I'm like an imitation.
Imitation
Midwesterner. So
Close
I'm
enough.
there with you in spirit, friend, and I can root for these teams alongside you. Maybe just not with the same truthfulness behind why. But at least for right now, we're being treated to a nice offensive push here. A brilliant save coming out from you, Mish, on the goal line. Bobcat will be able to advance up again, but that flick left a lot to be desired. Nickel taking over. Will get a nice delayed flick. No more boost, so Bobcat making some havoc in the backfield. Uventix not the redirect they're hoping for. Azel, a lot of time, tough angle, and they make it count. A brutal way for the first goal to go in, but they all count the same.
You know, it would have been a fantastic redirect if not for the fact that it was near third. Either way, you know, still early in the game. The 90s still young lads, and it is just game 1 and 4 minutes left in game 1, I might add. So perhaps it is unfortunate that they got that goal against, but they still have plenty of time to work with, right?
Yeah, it's something that I think that's kind of the goal that I think it's very important when you players go, oh, and then kind of like hit their desk or get grumpy. I think that's the absolute worst way to deal with it. I think you just got to laugh and say, wow, that was really dumb, and then just move on from it. Because, you know, this is game 1. You're warming up anyway into the flow of the series. So one goal, not going to be the end of things, but certainly with a name as storied as the UMich Central Campus here at an Ann Arbor school, it's going to be pretty tough to be able to give that one up. So we have to see if they can rebuild, but I will say Flint putting up a great resistance in the midfield. Yet again, it's that interface of the game rearing its head.
Oh, and a chance here. Uventix. Oh, Permanent with a pass to Azel. Instantaneously, Nickel. Awkward spot in the back. Can't make contact. And Flint now have that 2-goal lead here. And we didn't really discuss it too much. You saw it on the graphic prior to the game's start. For those of you in the audience who are attentive, points to you if you already know what I'm going to say. But as far as series goes, we do have U of M at Flint being undefeated so far. They're 2-0 in their season. They're looking to make it 3-0, and honestly, I'm not tempted to say they're going to be unsuccessful. Again, with Perma leading the way and Azel to back them up, it seems like they're going to be relatively unstoppable here in the Midwest.
And I think it's something that is nice to see when new programs do develop. Players go into that college age and they're able to shake things up. And it's what makes college really cool is that sometimes pro rosters, they do get shifted around, obviously, during roster media, but some rosters just stay the same. And that's fundamentally the thing about college that does change quite a lot. Players have different obligations. They have to leave the rosters and you have to shift things up. Or sometimes some players just peak a little bit too much and someone within your own program can take your spot. So you see a lot of upheaval. So whenever you see any program have really generational consistency, it's always nice to see. So when you see teams pop off consistently or these upstart teams, you know that Cyril always such a terror, which is fun to cast, but maybe not for our predictions on the desk.
Oh, absolutely not. We never get our predictions right. I think there was one time, was it?
I remember that, yeah.
I think I was on the desk and we did 6 series and I got every single series right somehow. I don't know how I managed
First time ever.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was absolutely nuts. Like, we even memed it on Twitter and everything. It's just impossible to get your predictions right. Ooh, that's a good pass. Oh, Perma can't put it away. So off the backboard, Zell can't quite get there. We'll keep it in, or sorry, we'll keep it in the zone. Not getting the contact there, but still, looks like Flint has been keeping up the pressure quite nicely. Right now, U of M, the real U of M, having quite some difficulty trying to get out and stay on the attacking side. They've only managed to put up 2 shots so far. This looks like it's going to be a goal. No, Perma can't actually cut the angle. That's not what I would have expected, but hey, occasionally you're allowed to make mistakes. They still got that 2-goal lead, so no harm, no foul.
Yeah, and they're still playing really well, and mostly the reason why we're trying to talk about these two teams is that right now, this is not just one team having a lot of pressure. This is just ferocious rotation coming in from Flint. They are immediately countering on pretty much every single ball that's going through. The occasional glimpse at goal, like from Umish, like right there, is being answered with some good defense. I'm loving the speed that Flint is putting on target. It's not necessarily that every shot is perfectly crafted and results in a fantastic opportunity, but at the very least, it is keeping Umish incredibly off balance, and I think that's really something to speak of, especially in game number 1, where you feel like it's going to be a little bit slower, maybe a bit more conscientious in your movement, you're trying to figure things out, and Flint says, nope, we know our game plan and we're going to execute on it, and do it well. Perma for number 3.
Yeah, beautiful read here by Perma. Nothing less than we expect, I will admit, but still, the play is there as a whole. Bobcat really with little opportunity to make any sort of impact on that play. But I think this might also stem very slightly, and bear with me on this one, Taco, this might stem slightly from the fact that they gave us it was oh, wow, Perma. Okay, I feel like we're going to see a really nutty double tap at some point during this series, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but still, as I was saying before, I feel like there is a degree of momentum that was gained here for Flint by that accidental touch backfield by Juventus early on.
And we're starting to see some development here, and Umish is actually getting some pressure forward, but ultimately they've had 4 shots, none of them found the net. As I say that, I suppose that's a caster curse. It had to happen one time or another, but I don't think I've cursed too much. 1 goal when you got 4 seconds remaining, you're going to need a bit more of a miracle than that.
And I don't know exactly what the plan was there for Perma. I believe it was supposed to be a pass out to Wizel, but not going to make much of a difference, strangely enough. 4 seconds to go. Kickoff goal immediate. Okay, not exactly what I was expecting. I feel like, ironically, the fake kickoff probably isn't a good idea there for University of Michigan. If you only got 4, because hear me out, right? You got 4 seconds left to go. You are wasting a lot of time with the travel, because the ball has to travel basically half of the field at about supersonic pace, because you can't really get it too much faster when you're on the ground like that. So it has to travel about half the field about supersonic pace. That's like 3/4 of a second, and then you have to blast it all the way downfield, presumably hitting a passing target as well. And then that's like an additional 1.5 seconds, and that's just to get to the goal line. And then, assuming that you score, you've got like 1 second left.
Yeah, I was doing the calculations alongside you.
Yeah,
that is 100% correct. That's way too much time that you need to do.
Passive
But
math.
I do like the creativity. And also, I think there's a part of it that knows that 4 seconds remaining, unless you literally speed flip so incredibly well that you just alpha right through it and it pinches right in, you're kind of done. You kind of need like an immediate goal. And then with 1 second remaining, like at 0.1 second, keep it on the clock. Then you pull it off again. Not super likely, but I like creativity, and I think they're just memeing it. And I will say that 1 goal doesn't change much for the outcome, but those things are so important because it's almost like the cap on your morale when you're getting beaten down, and then you get an open shot, and then you just like throw it away, and then it's like, we can't even get that one in. So it's like scoring that goal at the very least shows, hey, this team isn't infallible. We can score on them. We are able to put those shots away. And I think game number ones, I don't like to put a lot of stock on them, and I don't think that University of Michigan wants to either. That was not the best display of their skills. Game number two is where I think we can really sink our teeth into the analytical style of these both teams, because they're settled in, they're warmed up, they know what's at stake, and they know how fast this Flint team is. Let's see if we'll see any change of fortunes for the Wolverines.
Absolutely. I've got my notepad ready. That's a complete lie. I don't have my notepad ready. In any case, game number 2 now underway, and they've already got the possession here. So, like I said, I did want to see how things would change with U of M not having that one goal against looming over them, right? And already it seems like they might even have a chance. Juventix out to the mid. That was a beautiful opportunity. Nickel not prepared for that miss from Bobcat, though. Unable to get that effective backup, but still the idea was there, and that was a golden opportunity. Served up on a silver platter with Ron's execution. Thank you, Stack, for that one, by the way.
Perma almost just dancing through everyone in the corner. They're getting that initial clear. Zell will put that in, and Nickel, think, might have had their controller just barely dropped out of their hands and then chucked out of a window, and they were not able to recover. So, unfortunately, that is a pretty brutal way to give up your first goal, and Flint's on the board.
Yeah, and I believe we might have additional complications here as the face-off has come to a standstill. Yeah, it looks like University of Michigan might have lost 1 or 2 of their players. Juventix actually was the one disconnecting on the scoreboard ping-wise, and I think Nickel may have dropped, yeah, as you mentioned, like dropped a controller, maybe it ran out of battery, something to that effect. So we're going to have to see what happens here on the back end as the admin team, I'm sure, are hard at work trying to figure out what exactly is going to go on here. So remember that timestamp. Remember that timestamp. 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Goal number 1 for University of Michigan Flint. So if we do have to reset in one way or another, then remember that timestamp. It looks like the players were having a slight discussion about it in the chat here, and at least going for gentlemen's rules. I got to appreciate that as they're trying to figure things out, as Juventix is clearly having issues with their connection. Flint is not just piling on the goals. They're not trying to make this an unfair competition. This is the core of the Rocket League community that we love to see.
And we just have some connection issues. We don't really sure why, but there's also the cool thing that as I was talking to friends around the Collegiate Rocket League scene, players that have been recruited into their schools for their esport program, because it's treated like a varsity athletic program within the school, and that's part of their deals is that on off-campus apartments or within the facilities that they use, there's fiber internet. It's the fastest thing possible. It's super consistent, and they got like business class support for it, specifically because when you're in a tournament, you're playing for money, you're trying to get that record up, and then this happens, it can just be so brutal. So it seems like a little bit of an excess, like really they're going to go all out, and this is why. If you're going to play, you don't want to get affected by really anything kind of nonsensical by someone disconnecting. So we're going to be able to throw back to our lovely faces as we figure out how to handle this one. And as you said, the gentleman rules coming in from Flint, though. They're not scoring. They're just kind of running around, as I think we are waiting for permission to restart this one, as we are looking to see a fair amount, as all players on University of Michigan right now having a bit of a trouble trying to figure out if we can actually get through this full match.
Yeah, so we're waiting on the call there from the admin side, but Taco, I mean, we do talk about the sportsmanship in the esport, and as much as we've already kind of hit that one home, I do want to reiterate why we love it so much, and it looks like the players are getting out of the match. So I think that's going to be, we're going to have a reset of some sort. I'm still waiting on the official ruling in the back, but now I think it's actually a perfect time. Okay, so I said to you before the stream that I had a surprise, okay? And I want you to real quick guess what it is, because this is a legitimate thing. I'm not memeing you. I want you to guess what I have in store for you, because I saw this thing and I realized it was like, I know I have to show this to Taco. I want you to guess.
See, I was going to assume within the mythology of Squid that it would be Larry, but Larry's not a surprise. It might be like that Larry's being unveiled, but I don't know. Are you currently eating tacos? Is it on the side?
No, I'm not eating tacos. All right. It's a good idea, though. Good idea.
I don't know. Hopefully, it's not something that burns me with responsibility. Like, I always dislike when people are like, "I got you a fish," and I'm like, "Well, now I have to take care of that." Like, it's like not really a gift. It's like you're burdening me with responsibility. So as long as it's not that. Okay, Squid. What is this?
I got so. Me and my family were on vacation. I saw this. All right.
It's so cute.
It's a little taco. So now I have my very own taco in my own casting area that I just keep over here at all times, and he can give me analytical advice whenever I need it. But
And now I can go to the market. I'll go to the market and get a squid. Fresh squid right in my room.
If you get an aquarium with a squid in it and like have it in the background, I would be elated. But ladies and gents, we do have the official ruling. We are going to have a reset as a disconnect did happen prior to a goal being scored. So we got the fresh, the real game 2. Right? The not false game 2, the false prophet game 2. We are ready to go as far as I can tell, just waiting to get confirmation from the players, and we will be ready to go. And Juventix, unfortunately, saying I perpetual packet loss right now. That's not exactly what I was hoping to see. Hopefully, things will stay stable throughout the remainder of the series.
Yeah, this is very much that hotspot Wi-Fi where you're trying to connect into the game. You're desperate to try everything. You're filtering through. It's like maybe restart the router. Maybe we can try something else. Maybe sometimes if you're playing on campus, there's 2 different universities Wi-Fi's that you can connect to, and maybe at this point you might just have to bust out the phone, get on that Wi-Fi, boot up a hotspot, make your phone bill $100. Parents gonna call and be like, "What are you possibly doing to use this much data?" And you gotta say, "Mom, Dad, I'm playing for Rocket League. I'm playing for Rocket League scholarship money." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, we support you." And that's what I can hope for. But perpetual packet loss aside, we do have players in the lobby. And so far, it looks like their pings are pretty good. So I think we're good to get into an actual game number 2.
All right, so here we go. Actual asterisk until we know that it's going to work. This is actual asterisk game number 2 now underway. The University of Michigan down 0-1 in this series against the University of Michigan at Flint. Once again, we want to thank you for staying with us despite these slight technical difficulties for the players. Fresh 5 minutes on the clock, and we are underway here on Champions Field. Taco, hopefully Juventix is looking good on the ping side. So far, their car is still moving, which is a good sign.
So we'll be seeing if Gims start things going. They get a partial deflection, but will be cleared out. Nickel. Soft touch attempted. It turned out to be a bit longer than they thought they would get, as that will be stolen away. Zell. Seeing Juventix touch the corner. Perma coming in as third man. They don't have to put it really with a lot of power, just on target. Gonna meet the frame instead. And Flint is not one to change up a game plan. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. They are just constantly throwing these balls off the backboard. You have to wonder how much longer can UMich survive this until they get some form of counter. That 50 is going to slow things down, but until Perma just sends it right on back.
Oh, and the secondary touch there from Perma, beautifully played. Azell can't turn it after that demo, but I still like the idea. And Taco, you mentioned the utilization of the backboard. I could not agree more. Both on the fact that they clearly are doing that and the fact that it is a very solid game plan. If your opponents are not defending it, or as well. Gibbs? Hello? Did he forget how to play the game there for a second?
Just to clarify, UMich is the one with the connection issues, so I have no idea what happened there.
He knows that the gentleman's agreement is over, right? We're playing for real. Did we tell him this is live?
He's just like, wait, guys, you didn't tell me.
That would certainly be a story. In any case, that should have been 1-0 right there. But University of Michigan gets away, dodging a bullet without even trying. The execution squad just missed 5 times. That's basically what about that too. As we now move towards the 3rd minute of gameplay, it was a relatively neutral game there for a while. Zell now pushing downfield, denied out of the corner by Juventix. I mean, we've just never seen something to that caliber before, I don't think.
I mean, UMich has a storied psychology program at the graduate level. I'm sure that they played just a really high-level mind game, and it was not able to go in. Gibbs can't get the pinch on that one either. Whether or not it's a mind game, I guess we'll have to go back to the analysts afterwards. But right now, he is still getting 50s, and Flint is still maintaining pressure. Juventix will just tap that one out, get some boost, and tries to clear again. And just a softer touch, so Gims taking control. Good flick past 2. Doesn't get boost. Bobcat, that's kind of a lob. Perma slows things down, only opts for a 50. And even though Flint is not getting the same pressure as before, it is still a very sturdy midfield defense that they're holding up. And right now might come to an end here as Juventix has a counterattack, but the flick is not what they're planning for, and Bobcat gives another one away.
I'll admit this has been a most convincing game so far for Flint, apart from the fact that Gims may have dropped their controller at the time they were trying to score that open net. But I mean, Michigan is still holding on, which surprises me to say. It feels like the rotation has been Just a little bit sloppy. I think you might agree with me on that one, Perma. Oh, that was such a good chance to pass or shoot. Didn't get either. We're in the final 100 seconds now, and the score is still 0-0. As much as you might want to claim that it was mind games for Gims to miss that shot, you can't deny the fact that they're now in danger of allowing themselves to be scored on. This double tap from Azel looks so good, but not quite on target. And they'll continue with their ridiculous amount of pressure and individual effort, but still with nothing to show for it. And Gibbs finally no off the crossbar, and Azel is there to put it away. Do you realize how disappointed I would have been if that didn't go in?
I mean, memes aside, that's even easier. It's not even like that you're racing to the near post, you're trying to get it in at the right time, and it's just, you have an open shot. It's bouncing in the middle. If you could hit that pretty much anywhere, and it would go in. So, fortunately, no more shenanigans, only results for Flint, but still 1 goal a game. And I think the problems that I'm seeing from Umish start in the counterattack, right in the genesis of those plays. It seems like you can almost see just how eager they are to get out of defense. It seems like they've been pressed back so much that everyone moves up, and then 150 undoes the entire squad, perma for 2.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, this is not the play, especially if you're that second man in that situation. You're right in front of the dribbler, you see that Nickel is in front of you, and you know that there's a player behind you. What exactly is the coverage plan there? I mean, they have to have a communication between those players. Somebody's got to be there to rotate back in the event that somebody challenges that 50-50, and without a doubt, that will happen. And Azel, a freebie here off the physical play in the net, and the lead continues to grow here, Taco.
And it even feels bad for Nickel there because they didn't clear it immediately. They know what they were trying to do. They knew they were most likely going to get dunked or it would just get spiked right back. So they try to slow play it, but then Perma pretty much says, you know, hold my energy drink, and they're just going to go straight for it, dunk it right through, and get a pass middle, just doing the whole play by themselves. And all of it is just because they know that when that ball's in the corner, there's no reason that they need to slow down. They're just going to plow right through it, and Umish isn't getting the contacts that they're hoping for. Counterattacks aside, right now, they are just getting hard beat to these reads. Azel's going to get number 4 and a hat trick for themselves.
And a great pass there, I might add, from Gims over to Perma. Not even touching the ground off that one. That's a rather difficult thing to pull off, I'll admit. So Flint, I mean, here's the thing, Taco, is we're seeing this, a good performance from Flint, certainly, right? It's not exactly optimal from Michigan. I want to see what kind of damage Flint can do against a better team, if I'm being honest, because we've seen too many open net situations, as this one will join their ranks. A nice angle from Perma, I'll admit, but still, this is nothing out of the ordinary. I want to see what Flint can do against the U of MA roster.
Yeah, and this is, I think, a team that is up and coming. They have their 2 wins so far through the first 2 weeks of league play, Umish Flint. And I think this is a team that is really, it's tough to read because, as you said, a better team, I mean, just to really spell it out, that this Umish squad, they're not necessarily doing anything really, I would say, is absolutely atrocious. It's just they're not dealing with these things in productive ways. You have double commits in the midfield. You have a player who's facing upfield, even though their job is just to prevent the backfill from getting exposed. It just feels like they're a little bit rough around the edges, and when you play a team that is so razor sharp like Flint, every single time that you're a little off or you're maybe not touching the ball as you should be, it's just going to get shoved right back on to your goal line, and eventually a lot of them are going to fall, like the 6 that we've seen here in game number 2, the real game number 2. Here for Flint. And I think right now this team is certainly making a case for itself, and I'm very curious to see what this team is going to be doing once those Collegiate Rocket League qualifiers come around, because right now this resume is looking real impressive.
They have excellent odds of going up 3-0 here on the season with this kind of a performance so far. They only need 1 more game, and I have seen no evidence to the contrary. Or at least to the contrary of supporting Flint, right? And I think that for Michigan, we talk about the difficulties that they're having, but I can't help but feel that despite the obvious danger that Flint provides in every conceivable theoretical reality that you see on the pitch, the problem I'm noticing with Michigan is that they seem to be abandoning their fundamentals at times, right? We saw a lot of sloppy goals during this game, Taco, and it makes me feel like perhaps they're not performing to the best of their abilities, and I say perhaps, but I'm pretty sure that's basically a given. Based on what we've seen. Even with a massive differential in skill at the top level, you know, I'd compare this to like a Northwood versus UCF Knights, right? UCF, good team, when they play against Northwood, you don't necessarily see this kind of same disparity, which I would kind of rate this in the same way after seeing these games, right? Michigan, they're about to Michigan Flint, what Northwood, or sorry, what UCF is to Northwood, but you don't see those kinds of open nets. So they got to return to their fundamentals, and they can still do a good job in this series, right? They can still take a game at least, if not the whole thing, if they get back on their fundamentals and then actually try to formulate some sort of a counterattack.
And I would like to see a bit more careful approach onto offense. A couple times they've had clears, sort of like this one, but then people just march upfield because the ball is upfield. There's a very different mentality that you have to have towards defense. Just because the ball is going upfield doesn't mean it's cleared. A crazy angle from Gims, gonna get rejected, and the save attempt, unfortunately, is gonna find the back of the net.
Yeah, I think this is already a perfect example of what we're talking about. This, I would not argue, is a fundamentals thing, but you can't allow that to go in. I mean, it's definitely a momentum thing as well. When you realize that you're on the back foot in such a big way, along with the fact that Flint has really been pressuring you at every opportunity, it might be a little bit annoying to try to make that clear with any sort of clear head. But I don't know. It just does not bode well for me on a clear that should easily have been made. The demolition along with a bump against Juventix here provides a great opportunity for the blue side to move up into the corner. We'll actually get it out of the corner as well. Zell there. Follow up with a second touch. Bobcat is there for the save. But the rotation not nearly good enough to get that one away in a meaningful capacity up until that touch from Juventix. Bobcat does follow it, and almost a shot chance, actually. That one really came out of nowhere. Taco, did we just see them come alive there for a second?
Yeah, I do like how they're not just waiting for a perfect opportunity. They know they just have to attack the ball. And even though it doesn't go in, it's still showing that they're aware of the pace they have to bring. They're able to get that shot off. And even if it deflects out, it still keeps the ball moving. It makes Flint have to double guess, oh, do I actually have that read? Do I have to retreat? And anything you can do to add uncertainty to the game plan can give results. As Nickel gets an open hit here, he only is able to lob. Gims is just able to tap that one to the corner, and Bobcat throws it desperately in the middle yet again, but Irma and company equal to the task. But this is looking a lot better from Mish, with still only a 1-0 scoreline here 2 minutes in.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I mean, seeing them on the offense was certainly a breath of fresh air. Nice save here from Bobcat. Saw that pass over to Azell from seemingly a mile away. Can't defend the backboard, which does not bode well for me. Shot chance here, out of the corner. Closed off by Nickel. Like getting in the way of that angle before the shot even comes in, personally. But Perma, such an easy read here off the back. There was nobody even in the zip code of the defensive side there for Michigan. It's 2-0.
And we say this is an easy read, and especially at their level, you'd expect these to go in. But honestly, a lot of times, especially in those higher ranks, these goals need to go in because, yes, it's an open net, but you have to read the trajectory coming off the back wall. You have to see, is it coming across the goal or is it going to bounce out into the middle? And there's a lot of reads to get done. And even though it might be an open net, you still have to calculate it out and make those chances count. And, of course, create things in a very nice way. Perma getting a goal and now providing one, getting the pre-flip into the flip reset, and Azell, they're not going to have an easier finish all day.
They will not. Perfect execution there by Perma. I mean, just showcasing the mechanics once again. And for Flint, a goal and an assist for everybody on the pitch. That is some quality gameplay, and University of Michigan still looking for their first goal of the game, of the last 2 games, I might add. They're currently on about a 7.5-minute drought, and that looked like a good opportunity for Gims. Now the 1v1, Juventix can't really get this one past Azell in a meaningful way. Be returned once again by Perma. Back downfield. Azell for the shot, far side, and in, and it feels like they're just throwing more dirt into this grave.
Yeah, and right now, I think this is just let's say a symptom of knowing that you're having to play fast. Umish, even before that shot came in, even though that shot doesn't have necessarily an angle in which it's going to get smacked a million miles an hour, you see a pre-jump from Bobcat, and it just unfortunately goes right underneath those wheels and will find its way in. But that's really symptomatic of what happens when you are playing a team that's playing very quickly and a team that seems to be beating you at all the balls. You get antsy, you feel like you have to jump for everything, and then you do, and then you realize you might not have had to. So unfortunate lesson they're getting dealt here, but Flint putting on a clinic right now. I think if anyone wants to really trying to instruct her team on how to move with confidence, be able to keep the ball moving on offense, I think this is a great instructional how-to.
Yeah, that is true. And for Flint, I mean, it seems like this one is pretty well in the bag. I think that's a safe assumption at this point. I mean, there's still over 100 seconds to be played. Michigan hasn't exactly impressed me. That would have been the first impressive play I've seen this game. Nico can't quite snipe the upper 90, and it will be cleared now by Gims. any hope that they really had probably died with that play there, Taco. And for Flint, moving on to 3-0 will be a huge benefit for their season. We see them move on to be undefeated, of course, again, but staying at the top of their conference. You know, it might put a target on their back, but all the more reason, almost a tap there from you, but where's this offense been? I gotta be honest. I'm in the middle of my thought. I'm like looking at my other monitor, and then I look back, and then suddenly it was almost a double tap from Juventix. I can't believe this.
Remember, to not name names, but a fairly substantial brand within Collegiate Rocket League. Player on that roster used to tell me, it's like, how do you warm up? And they're like, oh, we just kind of get into the game, and game number 1 and 2 is kind of where we get warm, and then we go from there. And they used to lose a lot of games, and sometimes they would get swept by teams that are not as good as them. It's because they were taking that time to warm up, and it's almost like Umish finally getting into it, and nearly having a double tap, and now with a lead blocker able to get one in. It's going to be, I would say, too little too late, but 40 seconds remaining. We've seen some crazy throws. We've seen some craziness in general in Collegiate Rocket League, so let's hope for a little bit of Umish magic.
We have seen both those things. They've got 40 seconds to make it work. The dream is alive. At least they scored a goal here in this game, I'll say that. So, no shutout. This one coming straight down Main Street. Juventix back over to Nickel. I like the idea, but it's just a little bit too high. Follow-up from Bobcat will be outside of the uprights as well. And I think that is certainly going to do it. If it was not over before, I think it is now the demo on the back line, and they are still make a save. The time just got to tick down here, and then that will be end of the series. This is a good look for Flint. As I mentioned, you know, they are going to have massive benefits from being undefeated moving forward here, up to 3-0. But simultaneously, we talked about our hopes in the Perma, Azel, and Gims roster here. I've got to admit, it looks pretty solid. I don't think can draw conclusions yet about how they'll perform on the national stage, but it's certainly a good first showing.
Yeah, and one thing that I love about games like this is that when I'm watching a team like Flint play, they're getting the job done. There's no fuss. There's no mess. It's just clean execution. You might give up a goal or two, but ultimately, I never felt like the game was out of their control, and that's the results you want. I find it so utterly confusing when we see such great rosters enter the scene in any competition and then struggle against teams that I feel like on paper they should just play against. And getting game 1 kind of demonstrated there's a little bit of a speed difference. Umish maybe was just not ready for the amount of pressure Flint was able to convey on offense. And then over time you see that execute, but they're not dropping games. They're not giving up a lot of open shots. It was ultimately just a very clean execution, which is nice to see from Flint. And the second part is it's not top heavy. Perma's not doing all the scoring. Azel's not doing all the scoring. Everyone's part of the puzzle. There's no one who's just giving the ball away. It's not any player that's the weak link. If you have all players that work well together and it seems somewhat seamless, that's a dangerous team. So Flint, I haven't heard too much of you, but I know these names. I recognize them from ranked, and this is definitely a promising roster going forward, and they're going to be someone I have a little bookmark on.
Yeah, and Flint does have Northwood in their division, which, as I mentioned before, the roster of Noxus, T-Krell, and Lion Blaze, and actually they do have Hockey listed as a substitute, along with Voltasor and Ambrosia, which are 2 solid players in their own right. I mean, you have what amounts to 4 pros on that team, and then 2 incredibly solid players who have really gone through the fiery crucible of CRL. So, for University of Michigan Flint, I think we can expect that undefeated streak to end at some point. It's pretty much a competition for second place here in the Midwest 5 division. But it is, like we said, it's still good to see them move forward. And, hey, you know, it's not necessarily set in stone that Northwood does win. You know, if they field Ambrosia and Volt Destroyer, then it's entirely possible that Flint could give them a run for their money, if not just take that series entirely. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. Taco Northwood fell to what were essentially no-name teams in Stockton and St. Clair. Well, I say no-name teams. All right, so somebody's going to take my head for that, all right? Like, here's what I'm saying.
Jack, get him.
St. Clair, at the time, they basically had lacked any significant results in performances up until they defeated Northwood in the playoffs for Summer Series, which was an incredible series, I might add. Or, sorry. I don't believe they did defeat Northwood. I know Stockton did. Either way, St. Clair took the whole tournament. They beat Stockton out, which was impressive. Stockton beat Northwood, so by extension, right? You know, it was still a great performance. So perhaps it's possible that Flint could give Northwood a run for their money, is what I'm trying to say. I don't expect it to happen, that being said. But still.
I think any given day, that's the beauty of CRL, or really, well, CRL in terms of just the collegiate ecosystem, in that you have a lot of great teams. And then, of course, you have these Titan teams that everyone talks about with the Akrons or the Northwoods, or a lot of the Florida teams, honestly, that have been running that region for a while. And that you still see them get upset. You still see them drop games. It's been a very long time in which you've seen a team go into league play in any tournament and then not drop a single game. It does happen, of course, but at the end of the day, it's becoming more and more rare. So even as we see some of these rosters come together, like this team that Flint was going to have to play, all it takes is just one slightly off day, and you're peaking a bit, you're feeling confident, you're motivated, and you can get that dub. And I think if anyone's going to take it down, I think a performance like this from Flint, if they can just tighten everything up, keep that pressure going, it's certainly going to be a very interesting affair there, especially now that they are 3-0. They have a good platform. And even if you don't get it done, a loss in group stage, and this is the kind of round robin play, not going to harm them too much. You still have the ability to get into that bracket, into that playoff. So I think that's something you have to keep your eye on. It's not necessarily just about game to game. If you lose, you're out. It's more about building that consistency. And so that 3-0, as you mentioned, definitely going to help them down the stretch. And I think any of these elite teams out there, they have to do the exact same. It's not just that they're entering these tournaments just to kind of warm up for other tournaments. These are for cash prizes. They're going to try their hardest, but who knows? You might be able to come in maybe a little bit cocky. We've definitely seen that from, I would say, UT Arlington in the past, as a team that used to come in and try to freestyle, get really overconfident, and then they would drop games simply just because they didn't take the opponent seriously. The opponent had a really good day that day, and then they just get dealt a loss, and you're thinking to yourself, what's happening? So all about mentality, but I think it's certainly something we're might be seeing in the future, but all things open. And that's what I love about this season. As it develops, we're going to see a lot of storylines. Can't wait to talk to about them. I think right now we're trying to get someone on the line for an interview from Flint to really pick their brains about potentially what's coming up for them, what they're thinking about. But there's a lot of open questions that I think Flint is just another one of those teams that enters my awareness and say, oh, yet another team I got to keep my eye on this Eastern Conference, which is just so incredibly stacked with teams. It's like every time you think you have all them under wraps, who's the notable names. Now you're like, well, there's one more that I just got to put onto the list.
Yep, and I feel like that's the forever problem that we have with CRL is, oh, hey, look, that's a good team. I'll just add them to the list of 5 million CRL teams that I now have to look at their pages and see all the results that they've got. It does get a little bit ridiculous. But as we wait for the verdict, I believe we are going to be getting an interview here. But as we wait for the verdict here, let's look forward just for a second, Taco. We got Central Michigan coming up against the Illinois Institute of Technology. Both of them are 2-0 presently on their season. And let me do us both a favor and make sure that we have... Oh, sorry. All right. Cut that short. We got the interview prepared, and hopefully we'll have that on for just a second. And we got him on screen now. Welcome to the booth, Zell. It was I think it was a relatively dominant victory. I think we can all say that with some certainty. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good. Feeling pretty good after that win. Everyone counts here. Like, every team here is really difficult, and we got to make it to the top. That's the goal.
And so going into these types of games, I think you played your play style, and there wasn't too much deviation. Do you guys come in and try to focus on a specific style, or is it really just trying to keep the ball moving really fast? Because it sounded like you guys weren't trying to work up to just trying to find that one infield pass after another to get that solid shot. It was pretty much just felt like you were building pressure until the defense broke down. Is that somewhat accurate to how you guys like to play, or is it just kind of you feel out your opponent as the series progresses?
It's more like feel out our opponent. I feel like, though, we do try to implement strategies when we play. Like, a lot of how we play is based around Perma, because he's insane at the game, and me and Gims just try to support him. As you can see, he had that flip reset pass to me, which was absolutely crazy. So a lot of that works around with Perma and how he runs things.
Yeah, well, I mean, even as you mentioned that, though, it did seem like you had some pretty good chemistry built up together. So clearly, some significant bit of work has been put into that. And we talked a little bit briefly here on the stream about you moving forward with your season. You do have to face off against Northwood at some point during this group stage. So do you think that will give us a nice taste of what is to come for you guys, or do you think that's essentially just one that you're crossing out as all right, we can count on this one to be a loss? Because I think it's pretty safe to say, no matter how confident you are, Northwood is going to be basically 15% chance to win on that one. So
oh yeah, we played Northwood in another tournament, and we kind of got destroyed a little bit. So we're gonna try some new strategies against them and see if it works. But
Okay.
who knows?
And I think it's interesting to see when the way you were playing in this game. I had mentioned how you were playing incredibly fast. All of you guys were challenging immediately, and it's not necessarily that you weren't respecting the plays from you. It's just that you didn't want to give them space, and if they were to give the ball away, you just shoved it right back. If they were going for a slower touch, you pressured them on it. And I think weirdly enough, to just pick your brain about that is that we talk about Northwood and that team that's coming up, and a team that you maybe played and you didn't play well against them. But one thing that I've found throughout analyzing them, analyzing other teams, the teams that beat them, it's almost like the teams that beat that those higher level rosters are the teams that just don't give them respect. They challenge quickly, they throw them off their game. And I want to know, like, what do you guys talk about in those moments? Do you try to focus on within the comms, just constantly calling out, like, I got it, you cover, like trying to rotate back, getting boost, and like what are the team comms like to keep that pressure going? Because oftentimes you see teams kind of overlap with each other and you get in each other's way. Like, do you try to really work on those communications to make sure all your paths are clear from each other?
Yeah, so communication I feel like is always a big struggle for our teams, especially with teams that just form together. Especially if you're like not already like used to communicating with the team already, like if you haven't been on the team past. But with us, like trying to get a feel for each other is important. But I'm always like trying to like calm and like get everyone else calming. So that way, like either just like tell me what to do so that way I can do it, or just like just calm what you're doing so I can follow up with what you're going with. But that's usually what happens. I'm like always on the field, like you go, I'm behind you, stuff like that. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, we are coming to the end of our time here, but before we go, just want to give you a chance for any last shout-outs you want to give.
Shout out to all the fans watching. I know I put this link into a couple Discords with my friends. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for the family and friends that have tuned in as well. So shout out to my teammates. Love them.
All right, and shout out to you as well. Congratulations on the win, and hopefully we see a little bit more from you in the future.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, Taco. So brings us to the end here of this series. We still got 2 more to go, though. As I said before, I was starting to give us a little bit of a taste of what's to come. CMU versus the Illinois Institute of Technology up next should hopefully be an exciting one, sir.
Yeah, I think it's a lot in pack, and I think we've seen a lot of different storylines, almost a reverse sweep, and then we see a team coming out, I think, performing the way we would expect. Not really sure what's in store for us, but I think we will only have to find out by waiting for that. And you guys will be back along with us after this short break, so not too much waiting, but we'll be right back with the third match of the night here for NACE Starleague Rocket League. Welcome back, everybody, to some more NACE Starleague Rocket League action. We have 2 matches down. We got 2 matches to go. For our 3rd match here on the broadcast, it is going to be Central Michigan University against the Illinois Institute of Technology. Both undefeated teams and 2 undefeated casters. Still Dana Taco in the booth, along with Squid. And Squid, seen a lot of different varieties of games. We got some close ones. We got a little bit of blowout here. But now we have 2 teams that I don't know too much about, but they're both playing well, and eventually that storyline has to come to an end.
But it does, and that's the way we want to see it, right? Is 2 teams that are playing well coming up against each other, right? This is the future of Collegiate Rocket League. We have the Illinois Institute of Technology facing off against Central Michigan University. Once again, more Midwest. I guess that makes sense since we are in Midwest 1. But you get the idea. You know, I'm here for it. I spent my whole life in the Midwest, and I just want to see more success for these guys. And as you mentioned, we have not seen a significant amount of play from these players. So it's a little bit of uncharted territory. But as I said before, it's the future of CRL. This is what we want to see. This is what we came here for.
And I think going off into really these 2 teams is that we have 2 undefeated teams, of course. But one thing that I think we talked about in pre-show, in between that break, is we actually have a team on the roster for Illinois Institute of Technology called Robotic Player. They built their own player for the roster. Honestly, I'm surprised NACE allowed that. I feel like you'd have to check the rule book. And then again, I think Illinois' response was like, I don't think you specifically had mentioned that we couldn't. And I think that's a good clapback. So I don't know if they're going to be playing for today. I don't see them at least on the field right now, but my goodness, I would love to see how far AI has truly come. But I guess we're going to have to wait until another week.
It's a crying shame. Although I will say, we have seen some Rocket League bot leagues that have had some incredibly talented bots. So I don't necessarily think that would be fair. It might be what they call a violation of competitive integrity, whatever that is. But I think there's probably some reasons why we can't have that. Although we are ready to get underway. It seems we got all the players in the lobby. We got ourselves here. Taco, this is normally the spot where we do predictions. But since we haven't done those previously, and since we don't know those teams, I think I'm going to give us a little bit of leeway on this one. I think you might agree on that point.
I think it's tough because these are games that I actually really like because I know very little about them. They're little upstart programs from colleges that don't really get the limelight as much in some tournaments. So going in blind is actually kind of the most fun way to do because we can learn what teams we're going to be supporting, what teams that we're going to keep an eye out for. And of course, shine a spotlight on some deserving esports programs. But we do got game number 1 underway. We got these players here to entertain us. And right off the bat, we're going to be seeing some first attempts with a nice midfield pass by Central Michigan, but will be cut out, and back into midfield we go as their ball will be ricocheted around. But right off the bat, I like how you see Central Michigan is really just going for it right off the bat with these team plays. It's not just the long ball.
Yeah, CMU already getting up close and personal. Nice shot there. Well, nearly saved away by Pidgeck. And it will be that slight double commit that might reduce a little bit of the impact that they did have on the offensive half here as it will get pushed away. But still a good look for CMU very early on here. And it will now be Illinois' turn, at least if they get control. A nice cut off there by Bishop, and Carvunas with a demolition looking for more, but can't quite find the last defender, and that one will be turned away.
And I mean, Pidgeck just absolute the cojones, just really just stare down that demo attempt and say, no, it's fine, I'll just tuck underneath a little bit of limbo action and get the save out. And it takes a lot of presence of mind, a lot of composure to do so. It's kept their team in this game. Pidgeck and company doing a good job to also advance down, but I will say Central Michigan's offense playing well, but I don't think they expected the first goal to go in like this. Just not enough boost in the tank, not a good enough of a read, and a long ball going to open the game up.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation to be in, but sometimes you find yourself in that spot and they're just going to have to recover now. I mean, there's still plenty of time left on the clock, and as I like to say, if you are going to have that kind of a, well, I won't necessarily call it a screw up, right? There's not a terribly large amount they could have done, but if you're going to have that kind of concession, then get it out of the way early, right? You know what the odds are, you know what you have to get done, you got plenty of time to do it.
You gotta laugh it off. That's what game ones are for, just getting out the kinks before the game starts to get irreversible and you start getting some really bad decisions going down the stretch. But first 90 seconds have been fairly even up until that goal. Might start to become a little less even as Central Michigan continues to pressure, keeping the ball moving. definitely causing some frantic defending. Bishop Jason trying to throw one on target. They're just gonna tuck that one under the bar. That's a nice second goal. All three defenders from Illinois just not able to reach.
I like the backboard defense, but the problem is Godzilla comes too far across the center there, and the follow-up from Nightwing was also getting just a bit too aggressive. So perhaps Illinois getting too overeager to try and push out into the zone there, Taco. I think you might agree with me on that point. And now another opportunity. Bishop Jason was awaiting that pass from Brendo, but it was not meant to be. Either way, CMU looking rather good so far here in this game one.
And I do like how they're trying to continuously make themselves useful on these movements. You see a player push a ball across the backboard, and instead of just passing it and flailing and bailing out, they just touch it softly so it goes in the middle and then immediately going for a bump play. It's stuff like that I think that really throws the defense off. And right now, Illinois, having started in this game, being another competitive partner here in this matchup, right now just struggling to get out of defense. It's just such a consistent pressure being put on by CMU, and they're not shooting it too badly either. Right on the near post yet again. Bishop Jason can't get that. Carmuna's going to get dunked away. Finally, they'll have a little bit of time away, but Long Clear will make sure that that is short-lived.
Oh, the double demo. That's brutal. Any rotation that they had is now going to be reset onto the back line. And we'll get this one away, but I don't really think it's going to amount to much. There it is, the touch back upfield from Brando Carvunas with a little bit of extra contact. And they'll keep this one under control. Even a shot on target coming out of it. It's an easy save for Godzilla, but still, the reset for IIT. It looked like they had a decent chance, at least move downfield, but it's almost reminiscent of what we saw before, where their clear only amounted to giving it away to the opponent, allowing themselves a moment to reset. Nobody's even up to challenge this one. Brendo with basically everything to shoot at here.
And this is what happens when you get so concerned about the shot. Godzilla actually drives past that near post back wall where they could have gone up and maybe attempted to get a touch on it, but they're so concerned about what's going on target that they're not concerned about the next step on that play. Good awareness by Seamish, seeing no one on the backboard, lobbing it up, and you're going to have a wide open opportunity to shoot it. You're going to make it count. Seamish making their shots count here, and they've racked up already some double digits. We still got 90 seconds to play.
That demolition. Oh, goodness. It's not making me feel good on the inside, I'll admit. I'm certain that Illinois is probably in the same kind of shoes, but there is still some time to go. We haven't seen a terribly large amount of them on offense, though, which I do find to be slightly concerning. They've only put up one shot so far in comparison to the 11 that CMU have got, and now they've got another one, as this one will be put through by Carvunas for number 4.
It kind of reminds me of game number 1 when we were looking at, UConn against Northeastern, is where you see the teams play pretty evenly and you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is a decent breakthrough. And then Seamish gets one, and then things get a little more desperate for Illinois, and then they get a second, and then it's kind of just a snowball effect there. It's almost like they're gaining momentum as the game goes on, and they continue to get these shots off, and more are starting to go in. And I love the start from Illinois. They were getting some good midfield pressure. They weren't really capitulating too much on the defensive structure, but now I think they're starting to get a little bit too hectic, getting too anxious on the ball, and I think eventually CMU's pressure is building through, just eclipsing 13 shots, 5 apiece for Brendo and Bishop, and I think this is really impressive work from them. They're not actually too worried about rotating deep because they know that they have that peace of mind, really, as a team unit to be able to still build up an attack no matter how far it gets pushed into their half.
I mean, based on what we're seeing, this looks like it's going to be a bit of a desperate series for Illinois. I mean, both these teams came into it 2-0, but it is near the start of the season, so perhaps it was just opposite sides of the group stage, right? Perhaps Central Michigan got the harder opponents and managed to put up a 2-0, and Illinois wasn't quite on the same boat. Nice save there from Brendo. Even the consolation goal, which looked like it was almost a surefire shot, is denied here as the final second will tick away. I'll at least get another chance here before being shut down by Bishop Jason. I mean, that was just a clinic for CMU, and it's only game 1, Taco. 4-0 in the first game? I mean, like I said earlier, if you're going to have this kind of a concession, get it out of the way early. But I don't know. This is kind of a bit more than they can handle, if I had to guess.
I think the main issue that I'm seeing right now is that you see Central Michigan getting pressure and scoring a lot. And normally when you have goals go in game number one, I don't like to really chalk it up to always this is how the team plays. But over time, it just felt like that Illinois was not really on the same page as some movements. It's like they cleared the ball up and they don't really have another thing to build off of it. They're just trying to clear it out downfield. I think they're facing an issue that UConn was able to solve temporarily in games 3 and 4 in our first series of the day. And now Illinois is here. They're playing a team that I think is beating to the ball. They're playing a bit faster. And so when you do have those opportunities to clear, you have to make them count. Take some 50s, be able to put it into position that's going to take Central Michigan some time to actually regather, because if you just keep lobbing the ball out in the midfield, you're just trying to desperately throw anything out into midfield, it's just going to get put right back into your goal front.
And it will be in game number 2 once again. It is going to start with a CMU attack, and already Nightwing is forced to make a save. So hopefully, I think for the sake of your sanity, for my sanity, for the sanity of the Illinois players, we will see a little bit more of them out on the offense. Perhaps they will not be as outpaced as they were prior, but a double physical play there is certainly not going to help. And we talk about the very slight, it is a rather slight mechanical difference, I think, between these two teams based on what we've seen. It's just the speed, the pace of play that has really made a world of difference here. Hopefully that will start to become a little bit less of a gap, but Nightwing not making that contact really gives me second thoughts.
Yeah, Nightwing actually is, it's really, I think, symptomatic of how Illinois is approaching this on defense. I've seen a couple times now the ball is going over top their goal, and they have someone rotating in from the corner. They have boosts. I've gone onto the player cams, and then they just go right into goal, and it causes a lot of havoc because he can't get a clear out. Everyone is crowding that near post, and even when they get a touch on it, it's just a bit too much power to keep out.
Yeah, Godzilla unable to recover from this one as well. There was nobody else to back it up. That's just so unfortunate. There's nothing you can really do in that situation. They didn't have the boost to jump off and then get to that ball. They had to try and drive off the post, which anybody who plays the game knows is pretty much a death sentence. So it's just an unfortunate reality that they're going to have to deal with now. It was only in the first minute of play. As I said before, they know what is cut out for them now. And they're going to see that one goal. They know that it's there. They're going to have to make up for it, but it also does provide a bit of a mental stressor too.
Yeah, but CMU actually for the first time is out of sorts. They had two players rotating back, and it's going to yield the first shot. Great opportunity for Illinois. Just a bit wide. Roller across the backboard will try to continue their pressure, but good midfield consistency from Central Michigan. And I like the ability, the composure to really pass that one out of defense, and I think that's really a difference in class that we're seeing on offensive transitions. It's not immediately going downfield, it's going into the most likely opportunity, or most likely space to create an opportunity. Something lovely to see from C-Mich, but at least we know that Illinois isn't just really a passive participant in this game. They are capable of taking advantage of that space. They just barely missed the target on the last one.
It would certainly be nice to have that tie up again, but again, it's just something they're going to have to deal with. This is the kind of mental test that you want to have for these players in the first place. Nice little move there by Bruno to get past, back to Bishop Jason, I should say. On the sidewall, shot chance here. That one actually taken away by Carbunas. Not exactly certain what the play call was on that one. But I hope it doesn't really replicate itself. This should be an excellent opportunity off the corner wall, pinched back towards the center. I don't believe that was desired, but still a good attempt. Forced two defenders out of the net. And as nice as that might be of an outcome, I feel like it's more of a mistake on IIT's part. You can't afford to be sending two players at that ball. You talked about the dangers of letting it get over your net, and it seems they've realized it, but at the same time, sending two players for the same ball is never a good thing.
Yeah, and in situations like this, I almost always find if you ask players what the comms are like in the moments like this, they're either completely dead silent or everyone's yelling about something because you're just desperately trying to coordinate who's got that pressure, who's got the ability to actually reach it, and you end up with a lot of double commits and a lot of clears right down the middle. The pressure's going to keep up, but a rare double commit, a counterattack can't go through as Godzilla just doesn't get the contact. Trying to get some contact on Bishop Jason, but another clear will go through. A lot closer of a scoreline, but I can't really say the flow of the play is mirroring this. It almost feels like I'm shocked that the scoreline's only 1-0, but at least Illinois has a fighting chance, it seems, when they're moving down the field, especially with these patient buildups, but they're still just missing that one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see them be unable to capitalize on that double commit on the other end as well. And I mean, not to mention the previous opportunity that they had to score on the target in this game, which was, I think, one of their highest quality chances so far in this series. Within 70 seconds, they're going to have to replicate something, one or the other. Nightwing unable to make contact here. It's a little bit dicey. Now out in front, Nightwing is able to get a piece of this one. The 1v1, but Godzilla with no boost. And just gives it away. At least they keep it under control, but they're going to need something desperate here, and there's nobody home. And Taco giving away a second goal here. That one's got to hurt.
It's tough because Godzilla gets bumped on the rotation back, and the third man commits to a ball that is ultimately kind of going to work out to be a 50. I think this is one of those moments where we had talked about earlier on in the night where there's a decision you have to make when you're down, especially by a slight margin, like 1 goal or maybe even 2 goals, that you don't have to press immediately. You have a lot of time. You only need 1 shot to go in or maybe just 1 or 2 opportunities. So you don't really have to press up. I don't know if going for that shot was the right move. Maybe going for that demo is, though. Godzilla causing some havoc in the backfield, and they're back within 1.
Carvunas just find themselves in a bad spot here. That beat from Godzilla was so important. There wasn't enough support there for CMU to make that safe challenge in the mid. That's where Carvunas got put into that 1v1 situation. Pidgeot picked it up and made the play. They've got some time to work with here. They're back in the driver's seat, so to speak. Of course, doesn't mean the driver's seat only as far as getting this game tied, but it's certainly an improvement based on where we were the last game. At that point, Carvunas had every opportunity to put that one away and was unable to do so. That looked like a gimme. Now Brendo unable to get contact there. Everything is just falling apart here for Seamish on the defensive half. Touch there from Godzilla. Excellent secondary. But Pidgeot bumped away. They can still make this work out. The dunk is there. Nightwing just shut down in every way. Back to the mid. Nightwing trying to chase it down. Forces the pop-up against the demo. This ball is still alive. Still plenty of opportunity here for Illinois. Bishop Jason, the touch way up high. It's a double commit as well, but it looks like nobody is there. And Seamish will take it.
Despite how sloppy that looked at times, that is 100 times better from what we saw from the Illinois Institute of Technology. I felt like they were still, yes, very panicked in the backfield, maybe not getting the clears they wanted, but when they did get time, they weren't just throwing it away. They were taking 50s, they were putting it to the sideline, and also Seamish, I think it was paired, along with that more careful play style out of the backfield from Illinois, it was paired with Seamish not wanting to accuse them of this because it is somewhat of a dirty word within competitive play, but getting complacent. It felt like the rotations were a lot deeper. They weren't trying to push as hard, and I feel like a lot of their play style relies on that consistent pressure. These deeper rotations gave space, and maybe they think, hey, even if they have space, it's not a big deal. You got countered because of that. You gave up almost a goal earlier because you gave up that space. I think Seamish, if they want to win this series, yeah, keep playing how you're playing, but you cannot just take your guard down and say, it's fine, I'll just be a bit more lackadaisical, because we've shown that Illinois is not helpless. If they have an opportunity, they might be able to bury it, and they got close in that last game. It's a great improvement, but it has to culminate in a win soon. Otherwise, we're going to see another sweep as we see a shot right off the bat. How about this one from Pidgeot?
It's a beautiful way to get back into the game. A beautiful day in the neighborhood for Illinois. Nobody even close to beating Pidgeot to that ball. Nobody home either, and that's a bit of a freebie there for Illinois. They'll gladly take it. Central Michigan, like I said, now they have all the time in the world to contemplate what they have to do. Does seem like a second wind here, and now Nightwing dropping down in front. Pidgeot was right on top of that. If the defender wasn't right there and then, that would easily have been a 2-goal lead there for the Institute of Technology. Oh my, what in the world is that? Straight back, nobody's ready for it. Godzilla with the shot!
What is happening?
That was almost the most amazing play we've seen tonight.
That was like back-to-back, a pinch pass all the way down, and then a pinch save, and my goodness, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Illinois, though. I like how not only are they just like going forward, but actually causing some chaos in the backfield. Carvunas bumping a teammate. Central Michigan trying to make up for it now with a longer air dribble. They will be able to dunk it to the side around the defender, but also around the post. Nightwing will go up. Fortunately, somewhat, they don't get a hit as Godzilla will slow things down, but this is, I mean, such a changing of the tides here. It seems like Illinois is the one trying to force this pressure, and Central Michigan looking disheveled in the backfield.
That they are, and I mean, this seems like it's been a whole game already talked. It's only been a minute and some change. I mean, this is ridiculous, but whoa! That's not okay. Brenda, you did not have this angle. It was covered, right? Am I crazy? Am I seeing things? I thought Godzilla had that for sure.
And just get hit in the weight room. That's why. You got to drink your milk. You got to get your protein in there. You got to get your reps. And then you're just able to dunk down that ball, even through a defender. Because I also was thinking, okay, Godzilla's got that read. And they did. They were flicking it to the corner, but there was just enough of a space to get a nice deflection in there. So good job on Central Michigan. Maybe not creating as organic of a play, as really finessed ball as they might have hoped for, like in earlier games, but it's a nice way to get yourself on the board and to kind of recertify that, you know, you have a place in this game as well, and we're right back to a 1-1.
I mean, Soccer, you said you uttered a taboo word in the community earlier by saying complacent. I think I'm going to go one step further and say it almost felt like a little bit of luck on that play. Yes. you can just hear the Rocky players getting angry. I mean, we've always been huge advocates that luck isn't really a part of competitive play, but hey, you know, sometimes things just happen that are very, very slightly out of your control. But either way, we continue forward now, 1-1. There was almost a good scoring opportunity in the 1v1 only moments ago. Wasn't really much of an angle to work with. Brendo over to Carvunas. It's a desperate touch, but it seems to be keeping Illinois boxed in.
And touches like that from Carvunas, even though they don't really have that and one type of mentality where you can follow it up, it's a good thing to have because Brendo Plus tries to go for the soul play. They go for his arrow dribble, and it doesn't work out. Carvunas knows they can't shoot that. They don't have a pass, so what do? Pop it as high as possible, makes the defense wait, and then you can rotate out. So ultimately, it shows C-Mish trying to focus up on making sure everyone is where they need to be and make sure they don't give away balls like that, as we just see another one just kind of result in a sitter of a shot for Illinois, but can't put it away. On we play, 2 minutes remaining here in an elimination game here for the series for Illinois, and still looking for something. So Central Mich, the air dribble, it's just gonna tuck off the crossbar. Godzilla getting the deflection, and out to the corner it'll go yet again.
It seemed a little bit dangerous, but I'll admit, the individual play, I feel like it's the last thing I expected to see Central Michigan trying to score off of this late in the game. You would think that they're trying to utilize their teammates as much as possible, but it looks like the demos are still at the forefront of their minds. And finally, here's a pass. Nice cutoff there by Godzilla. Getting in the way of that pass before it could even shot on target. Some beautiful recognition, even got them downfield, but only briefly. It's back up in the air. Brendo looking at a potentially good angle. Opts for the foot reset instead. A huge dunk there from Godzilla again, back towards the opposing net. There's nobody even close, and Illinois got the lead.
I'm saying, I'm going to go back. I'm going to double it down. It's just complacency. Why are you challenging this? You don't have a read. You have 2 players there. You are last back. No one is there for Central Michigan. On offense, they show so much cohesion and being able to follow, but on defense, it's these wide, sweeping rotations that are just completely unnecessary, and a roller will find its way in, maybe again, but off the post. Illinois, where has this been? I guess I don't really care. All that matters is they have a lead with 60 seconds to go.
Central Michigan, it really felt like their game to lose for the longest time there. But now they find themselves in the hole. 1 minute remaining. 2 players commit for that previous ball. Bishop Jason with the clear down the sideline. Might have something of a follow-up here. Pops it up high, going for the individual play again. You gotta pass it out to somebody. Brendo will finish this one off, but still, it's not the look that I want to see from C-Mich, and I feel like this might be a little bit more of a defense error than anything.
And that's tough from Nightwing. You actually had a decent contact. It's just that you got bumped immediately. So even if you were trying to maybe lean, tap it to the corner, or maybe tap to the far side, instead you get bumped out of the way and you just lob it right back up. So it will be put right back in by C-Mich, and they have a chance to make their footing in this game, close out the series. Just have to hope that their defense holds. That's going to be a tough read to test them right off the bat. Carvunas missed. Brendo just getting that cleared out. So Pidgeck and company will have to retreat. But at this point, I think reaching overtime alone would be quite the accomplishment. But honestly, the way that Illinois is playing, I would rule out some theatrics right before then in the final 30 seconds. But they have to make sure defense holds, because as we've seen, Central Michigan, even when they're a little bit off, they're always just one shot away from a nice scoring chance.
That they are. Final 15 seconds to play. Golden goal territory. That looks like it's it. No! Nice save from Pidgeck.
Oh, what a foul.
Continue to tick down into single digits. A nice play there. 50-50, honestly, going well for both sides. This one straight down. Carvunas trying to get there. Unsuccessful. Overtime now. Illinois has to bring it back from the brink of defeat. And then take 2 more games if they want this series win and continue to be undefeated. Bishop Jason right out in front early on Godzilla is there for the first save of extra innings.
Great reaction. They have to keep it going, though. Brendo not the touch that they were going for, as they only can find the back post. Nightwing get a deflection. It's right to Bishop Jason. Pitching with the save into Carvunas into the corner. Madness happened in front of the goal, but it will stay with the level scoreline. A very interesting opening 30 seconds to OT as Nightwing gonna get one beat out. Godzilla's gonna dive right in and will go into the corner instead. Brendo Plus will be able to get that clear, and Bishop Jason trying to end it with one more shot, but a long deflection gonna test Carvunas. That's gonna go over his head and out into the corner. Pidgeck, one more chance. It's a roller, and it will be bounced high and out to midfield. Illinois, you can almost smell that they have this newfound confidence, but it's all for naught unless they can get this next goal.
Oh, that's done from Bishop Jason. That's huge. No more boost in the tank. It's out in the front anyways. Nice touch by Godzilla. I gotta admit, Illinois has improved vastly on the defensive side since we started this series. Here's another chance to make a save. It was a double commit, but Pidgeck is there for the quick follow and gets it out. You just need to see them get out on offense with one effective attack, punch it past the defense, and they'll have one game. They'll have life in this series. Until then, they exist in a limbo between realities here. They're both alive and dead in this series. Nice 50-50 here from Godzilla, pushes it even farther past. This looks like a shootable ball. The secondary touch, though, goes straight up, allows Brendo to take control, at least to the midfield line. Awkward play here for Nightwing, but makes the over-the-shoulder touch. They're back on defense, where they seem to have been somewhat consistent, strangely enough.
Yeah, but all it takes is just one miss or an awkward touch by an offensive player on C-Mish. And right now, what I'm looking for is when Pidgeck aerialed on that last attack forward, they're going for a ball that's really just going to result in a 50. You can't bite off more than you can chew. Don't go for something crazy. You just need one more shot, and you're playing well enough on defense that you can get there, but I don't want to see them force anything, because ultimately that could be their undoing. Same with neither player on C-Mish going for that temporary opportunity, but another deflection, and Illinois will be able to gather it out of their own corner.
Nightwing, I think a little bit too late trying to go for that pickup. Allows C-Mish to push up. Shot here from Bishop Jason. I think Brendo might have been trying for a physical play. I might have seen that one wrong. But the save is made one way or the other. We'll continue to move along here in OT. A slight team bump, Nightwing. Still out in front. Doesn't look like there's many beans in the tank, as the players like to say. Finch back down the other way. Feels like this is a perpetual game of ping pong. Almost a rule one here in the corner. Not meant to be. Third minute of overtime now over. And we play on without a victor. Pidgeck, ooh, that was an awkward situation, but the fake seems to work. Almost past Carvunas. That could have been a game changer.
Ooh, that's a lot of chaos being created by Carvunas. He loves just hanging around that goal line, trying to get these awkward deflections or these physical plays, and it's almost paid off so often. But right now, they're still not getting that result. And this has also got to be a frustrating game for Central Michigan, as it feels like they were really just going to sweep right through this game, and now they're actually legitimately struggling, not necessarily to get offense going, but this has been earned goals throughout this game that they've really had to pound through. And it doesn't help that they're not getting touches on defense that they're looking for. Godzilla, with the slow 50, will bounce straight up and the ball out into midfield. And this is a good approach from Illinois. They just got to keep it going for a little bit longer. Feels like they're warming up for shots, especially since Central Michigan has looked the weakest that they've been throughout this series on that back line. But can't say the same about their midfield. They're very consistent on getting that ball off that backboard and on target, but the framework gonna say no to that one.
And you mentioned how they're so consistent getting the ball off the backboard and on target, but it feels like they... No! What a save from Pidgeck! Keeps the series alive right there, and that one fails to get in between the uprights again. Central Michigan, I gotta be honest, Taco, despite how good they've been at utilizing the backboard previously, it seems like they haven't even tried here in the past 5 or so minutes. We're almost to an extra regulation of Rocket League here. This looks good. Pidgeck not far enough out in the mid to make use of that pass, and things. It seems like we're simultaneously slowing down and speeding up at all times. I don't know if that's just me. Illinois trying to play the slow, calculated game at times, and other times just dive the ball and it works.
I think right now what I'm seeing from Illinois is that they understand that this game has not been going the way that they expected. I don't think anyone expected this, but you almost see it in their play. Pitchick actually got a demo and a touch, and then they turned around. Instead of actually going for it again, they just turned around and rotated out. They could have pressed the issue, but I think they know that if they overextend too much, this game is over. Going for a bump is Pitchick almost ended that game right there with some physical play, but they're gonna have to retreat yet again into the corner. We have indeed played a whole extra game here of Rocket League in overtime, and it could end with something magical off the double tap, and it's saved out to the side. Carvunas robbing his own team, and on we play again.
It looked like Godzilla was petrified in fear, but Carvunas comes in and saves the day for the orange team. I can't believe it. The shot here, no, that one's gonna be just high. Follow-up is not there. Carvunas now beating the mid, does get contact on Nightwing's car though. Off the, oh, that was almost off the back wall. Godzilla could have taken that shot. Back to the mid again we go. I can't believe how many times we ventured across that midfield. Oh, the field side flip there from Nightwing. Pitchick is fast to that ball though. The dunk on Brendo. This could turn into a scoring chance. Off the backboard, it's shallow though. An easy touch away. Taco. I can scarcely believe that we're still even playing this game. I mean, it has been a linear progression here for Illinois. First game did not look like it was going to be much of a series. Second game was some improvement, and they keep improving. But have they improved enough to take this game here? The double tap, Pitchick has to make the save. Almost the dunk there as well. And you can tell that Central Michigan are getting very impatient with this overtime.
Hey, Starleague, please get out the record books. I want to know the longest game, because I think this has the potential. Both teams going back and forth. And I'm really just waiting for it to keep going. At this point, I have no anticipation of this ending as long as these saves keep coming in, as they keep getting racked up from both sides. You have to feel like Central Michigan has the edge here with these longer shots, and it comes down to a lack of execution. Brendo plus from downtown, and that is going to do it.
This hurts me. This hurts me. It hurts anybody.
Oh my gosh.
What?
The lag. The lag touch. It went right through the car. Oh. I'm in physical pain. I'm in physical pain. That was such a nice game from Illinois. I loved seeing that. And then it comes down. It's almost fitting that it comes down to that. It's just.
Even the players, Taco, even in the chat, one of the orange, I don't even know who it was, but one of them said, on God, he hit that. And Carvunas, Brendo said truth. Carvunas says for real. Can we go back and like reset it at 6 minutes and 57 seconds?
Yeah, just redo that. Yeah,
and
real
just
quick.
say and just like face off again. They don't deserve that. They don't deserve that.
This is exactly why you got to play on LAN. We got to do all these games on LAN, because then you don't have those ping touches. Just playing it solid, and that's very rough here. But
it takes some time to process.
Is that we gotta breathe it. I'm just trying to lower my heart rate. There was so much going on there, and I'm glad that we have someone from CMISH standing by to be able to pick through that, because that took a turn. No, we do not have someone from CMISH. Actually, it turns out that they actually all passed out at that last game, so unfortunately no one is available. So that's fitting. I mean, it's a 3-0 victory, but
here's the deal.
I don't think I've ever seen a 3-0 victory quite in that style. You know what I mean? Like, I did not expect that turn.
Why were we not lucky enough to see every game look like Game 3? Like, what happened? Like, did they just need to? Maybe this was that. You remember how last series you talked about there's some teams that just go out to Game 1 and they say that that's their warm up. Maybe that's what that was. And if that's the case, I'm livid if that's the case. So if I find out that that was their warm up, it's instant hands with the Illinois team. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Well, it's instant hands with the Illinois team, but that game is in the past, unfortunately. We got to calm down. So we will be throwing you guys to a brief break, but we have one more series on the docket. We got St. Edward's University against the Texas A&M at San Antonio to wrap up the evening here for NACE Starleague Rocket League. And I don't think you want to go anywhere. These games have been all over the place, and it's only going to continue after this short break. Welcome back, everybody. We've been through quite a lot here tonight on NACE Starleague Rocket League, but got a little bit more to go. We got one more match on the docket. We got St. Edward's University and Texas A&M at San Antonio, one of those just tiny satellite campuses of Texas A&M, and we're going to round things out here with a bit of an interesting story. I think Texas A&M is a program we've seen, not necessarily this campus, but St. Edward's, very interesting roster as a newcomer to the Collegiate Rocket League scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say that. St. Edward's is a newcomer. Although, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say that the players are a bit seasoned on their team, right? So coming up here against TAMU what's it, like TAM USA? TAMU SA?
Tamusa. I think I'm just going to go with Tamusa.
I'm fairly certain that there are a lot of Texas A&M graduates and or current students that really want me to stop talking right now. So I'm going to do them a favor and do that.
I mean, it's perfectly valid. I mean, I also support the dream that Squid could stop talking. So I'm 100% behind Texas A&M players wishing for that. But unfortunately, we are actually obligated to talk. So we'll get back into it, but maybe just not about Tamusa or Texas TAM USA, or however you want to pronounce it. But I do want to talk about how, yet again, we have an upstart team here in St. Edwards. We won't spoil it to get into the rosters, but these two teams are our final game of the day, and I think we've really seen the full gamut of things that you could expect from Collegiate Rocket League in terms of our game number 1, or match number 1 on the day was, of course, that reverse sweep that was just barely swatted away by Northeastern, and then we get into a game that's a bit more ordinary. We see Michigan at Flint being able to take down a team that I think they play the game, they execute it well. Then we see another sweep, but anything that from anyone would expect. Technically, we got 4 games out of that one with an overtime, and now I have no idea what's waiting here. I think we're going to see maybe even game 1 going into 19 minutes of overtime. Anything is possible at this point, but with the rosters on display here, I think we're not likely to see that, at least in my current prediction. But to be honest,
Yes.
I think we've learned that predictions don't mean anything, and really anything is on the field for the predictions and what we can actually hope to expect.
I don't know. I feel like if we were going to do predictions, this would be the game to do it on, because I think this is the most easy to predict. But we got the teams ready to play, so without any predictions, we want you guys to see this for yourselves. We have Texas A&M at San Antonio versus St. Edwards, which honestly I hope will be a returning team based on what I'm seeing. The teams are ready to go, and as you will shortly see here, we have on the blue side Dino and Mala representing St. Edwards, which, oh my god, I can't even introduce them properly. Dino already scoring. They're just trying to speak for themselves here.
Yeah, and for those of you guys who are perceptive viewers, it might be a green background on that banner, but you might notice that they have 2 blue tags. Those are rival series tags. Previously, what was essentially just the minor leagues of RLCS before it was done away with. As Squid, you might have heard of that. I think you might have had glancing experience within that as a commentator. But certainly, these are players that are incredibly experienced in this game, and they're just absolutely filthy. So yet another team in the West to be able to look out for Malachus on the pre-flip off the sidewall.
It's just not okay. Like, Dominic Clara was looking at this like, yeah, I think I got a shot, and suddenly it has been redirected out of my reach and into the net. What happened? What kind of gross miscalculation must have happened for that to be the case? Actually, though, Taco, now that you mention it, Dino as a Season 4 tag. Guess who else was on Season 4? Hey, that's right. Me. So, I do believe that Dino was actually something, but this is not looking like a substitute right now at the double tap chance there. And almost put it through, if not for the backboard defense. Dorito out towards Dominic Clara, but the defense is there. I got to admit, it's hard to vote against St. Edwards with the roster they have on the field right now.
Yeah, and this is also just a great roster to be able to see emerge because they're playing how you'd expect them to play. Maybe not on defense, though. That's a wide open goal for Dorito, but the angle proves to be too much. The pressure gets to the player. They're going to put that one wide. Maybe a little bit of revenge, but they're going to try the other side and hit it out to the corner. Dino lurking upfield. The redirect off the bar and out. And I think it just speaks to say that we talk about the East, how stacked it is. The West does get disrespected a lot. There are some quality teams out there, but now they've certainly added another dangerous team to this, as we already see that Dino and Mala might not be current players that are really trying to grind out the pro scene right now, but they have that experience, and my goodness, they have skill in spades.
I believe Mala actually only really exiting the pro scene in order to become a content creator, as I recall. Signed out to FaZe, so still plenty versed in the Rocket League scene. Of course, Mala was quite the storied player earlier on in the lifespan of Rocket League as well, not just in the Rivals series, but I believe was a staple in the RLCS at one point as well. My history is a little bit rusty, as happens when you have to try to remember 5 years of esports, but either way, the performance is still going to be there in one way or another. I think the real question mark is Moist Tuna, honestly. We talk about the story, talk about what's going to happen here for the upcoming season of CRL. The qualifiers are going to open up very shortly. Or excuse me, the qualifiers are open, but they are going to take place here before too long, Mala, with the easy save. Do you anticipate this team will be a threat to those that have previously qualified for CRL in the West?
I definitely think they are, because they're playing with a lot of pace, and as you said, Moist Tuna is the question mark here, because I think Dino and Malachus are dangerous. I think they've already really shown their pedigree off of the bat in this game, but one thing I'm concerned about is the inconsistency. Actually, as we see Mala miss one, Dominic Clara is going to gobble that one up, so Clearly, this team is not infallible, but to get back to the point I was making, though, is that when you have two players that can be such offensive scoring threats, that can be so dangerous all the time, and you got to keep an eye on it, then it's really just on that third player. As long as that third player can be a solid base, a consistent third man, this is a very dangerous team. But if they're a player that can be exploited, if they can just get knocked around by maybe some of the faster teams in the scene, then it starts to get a problem because two players do not make a team. You have to all work together, and you have to all carry the load.
When Moistuna carried enough of the load there, although I believe it was mostly just communication from Dino getting this bump against Dominic Clara that really opened things up. Although I have very few doubts. Based on what I'm seeing so far, the rotation looks good. Despite the one goal against, it was primarily the miss on Mala's part. I think they are coming into this with a relatively confident attitude, trying to play aggressive in the opposing half, controlling the midfield whenever possible, going for demolitions as we've already seen, but they're unable to block this one. And the first one I can let them get away with because they're playing aggressive, but this was a defended net.
Yeah, and now I'm getting a little awkward on these touches. Is that's still a tough read. It's coming across your goal. You know it's bouncing out, but maybe you don't know exactly how far. So you rotate your car, and it looks like Moistuna was trying to angle it to the corner, but ultimately rolls it into the middle. So good job for Tamu to be able to get on these shots. And when the mistakes do present themselves, mark of a good team is being able to put them away. Back to 1-goal game, a minute 45 remaining, and certainly a good groundwork that they've laid, but they have to make sure they're not giving away any easy shots. Dino nearly racking one up, and we'll take a demo just for their exit rotation as another ball will go out to mid.
Honestly, I can't help but wonder if we're going to need some more mechanical brilliance coming out from the other side. What in the world is this? Mala? Okay, past one I understand, but Pop-Tart on the back wall here had no options in order to cover the net here.
I think it's a classic example of you're paying attention to the movement of the ball, but not necessarily in the danger of what's next to come. If Pop-Tart facing the goal, they're on top of the goal, but then as that ball came across, they actually rotated the car to turn to the corner. Then the moment the ball goes anywhere into the middle, just that little roller of a shot that came in, you just can't reach it, so you have to play predictive. If the ball is going to the sideline, most likely it's going to ricochet in the middle eventually, so you got to play that ball. Right now, Tamu learning that lesson in a very brutal way, letting up a less than spectacular goal, and now they got to dig themselves out of a 2-goal hole yet again.
Right, do actually somewhat like their odds. Nice demo there from Pop-Tart Pounder. Wouldn't be no follow-up on it, but still a good idea. Covering that far post in that particular situation. With 50 seconds now to go, things do seem like they're in dire straits. Nice shot there from Dino, will be blocked away by Dominic Clara. But here's the thing that I was going to mention, right? St. Edwards, they're actually going to have to start pulling out more mechanically brilliant plays, and this will be one of them, as Mala will pick up the double tap for the hat trick. But they're going to need to keep this kind of thing up, because we do often see, Taco, and I think you'll agree, that players who play just below the top level can usually play up to professional style play, just because they've seen the esports, right? They tend to watch esports at the very least. So they know what pro play is like. They know that it's going to be optimal. At no point are you going to see Dino or Mala make a play that does not make sense. And for that reason, it can actually be a little bit easier to read than a regular Supersonic Legend.
Yeah, this is a very meta thing we're talking about, especially because when we say that it's easier sometimes to play against players like this, it's because when they're going for a double tap, it's probably going to be a pretty well-hit double tap. If they're going for a pass middle, it's most likely going to be a pretty well-delivered ball, and you're not going to see a lot of balls that just kind of go across. They're just going to blatantly whiff them. It's going to have purpose, it's going to be direction, but the problem is when you're looking for a mistake, that's not going to happen, and I think we're seeing that in game number 1. St. Edwards taking it.
This is all just about having the respect for your opponents and being able to play that optimal game. And you did say, and I will admit that it is a meta, like a really meta style of thinking, right? It's not necessarily absolutely true, but in practice it does happen, right? When you can expect your opponents to make the play 9 times out of 10, as opposed to having to question yourself constantly and be like, are they going to hit it? Are they going to miss? Are they going to get the touch that they want? You know that Mala and Dino are probably going to get the touch that they want. So if you understand what that touch is, if you're able to get inside of their minds, then it can become some of their own weakness. So perhaps that was kind of what we saw from Tamu there. And I think if they can kind of get into the mindset more here in the future, it will actually play to their benefit. However, they are 1 game down now. They're going to have to deal with that deficit as we move here. Game 2 now underway. We'll see what they can do.
We will see if Tamu is able to generate some more mistakes coming out. St. Edwards definitely was not flawless on that last game. They gave him a couple sitters, but shots like that are still just put to perfection. Top corner and a brilliant save from Tamu will keep them from going down early. Now they'll get a shot of their own, but unfortunately, the recovery is there from St. Edwards. They're back on the attack. Dino, flip reset, going for number 2, though they will not be able to activate that flip.
Not able to activate that spell card. In any case, Yu-Gi-Oh! Antics aside, well, actually, when are we getting Yu-Gi-Oh! Esports? I would really love to hear somebody say, "You activated my trap card." In any case, nice touch here from Mala. That one will be crossbar and away. Dino lurking. Moist Tuna actually has right of way on that play. Shot again towards the net. That one's just outside Dino with the demo, and it should be open. Moist Tuna is there for the janitorial duties, and it'll be 1-0 to St. Edwards.
I just love how consistent Dino is with hitting a ball, and then immediately it's like predator vision turned on, just finding someone's car and then sending them to the scrap heap. They are getting so many demos, and you see the problem with plays like that. When the ball gets hit on the backboard, Dorito is left back, and they flip in place because they're like, well, I'll just stay in place and then get a deflection. Nope, if you stay in place for too long, Dino is going to be like a heat-seeking missile. Got like Pop-Tart Pounder pounding this one right into the near post.
Oh, goodness. And Mala trying to get this one away, but can't get it past. Sometimes that's all it takes, is a little bit of extra oomph and Pop-Tart Pounder. I'll be honest, there's hardly a more fitting name than Pop-Tart Pounder for that kind of a play. Although I will admit, it's a bit of an odd with Dominic Clark not able to make contact on this, and the follow-up's not there. What in the world is going on here on defense? Mala with the follow-up out of the corner, seemingly out of nowhere, and it's back to 1-goal lead.
Seemingly out of nowhere, indeed, but it happens sometimes when you don't get that clear, and then 2 players are in front of it, but it shows why. Even if you don't have a clear, you got to get a 50 or something, because one miss in the corner was enough for Mala to, I think, potentially maybe just go for a 50 of their own, but it turns into a shot, and that's all that it's going to take for St. Edwards to get back their lead. It's a brutal way to give it up, but it's just a reality of the game. If you miss some touches, sometimes they can be punished in ways that you didn't even prepare for.
Oh my goodness. Talk about that. I mean, that's my entire ranked experience. In any case, we move forward here. Only a minute and a half gone, so there's definitely some life for Texas A&M. Just have to see what they can do against it, though, with Mala with a huge dunk on that play. Moist Tuna looking for the double tap. Not quite a boost in the tank. Mala will easily turn it in, though. And that is one of the hardships, right? We can almost see this mentality at Play Talker that we were talking about earlier, expecting that double tap to come in. Pop-Tart Pounder and Dorito both jumping for it, regardless of how effective it would have been in the situation where the double tap comes through. The play doesn't happen, and then Mala has an easy cleanup.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the peril. When you're trying to match speed, you try to play as fast as possible. You're trying to get to that clear as soon as you can, and you almost see Pop-Tart Pounder in a position where they could get that clear, but instead of slowing down and seeing what happens and taking their chances they can react, they're trying to get ahead of the play, and they're trying to dive at a ball that they don't 100% of a read on, and sometimes if you took a little bit more time, you wouldn't have given up a goal, but hard to really bemoan that really in real time. Hindsight is 20/20, and right now they have to look toward the future, because right now this game was close, but it's slowly slipping out of their grasp, and with bumps and shots like that, it's not going to get any easier. More chaos in front of the net, and Mala's going to get a hat trick.
This is not okay. Hang on, time out. So we look at this. Mala had a shot, gets bumped, and still gets objectively a more powerful shot than he would have gotten otherwise. I hate it. I hate it here. This is terrible. This is not what I wanted. I mean, that was the play. If you are in that situation where you realize, hey, Mala's about to take a shot at this, what can I do? Oh, I can bump it, and he scores anyways. That's just unfair. Like, the gods just hate you at that point.
Yeah, we'll see if anything can change within Rocket League deities or otherwise, as Malik is just going to let that one float on target. Still got credit for the shot, so would have been able to steal that stat. Dorito. Missed clear. Moist Tuna going for a bump. I like the heads-up play. And the speed from St. Edwards, I think, really starting to come out. I think we got a glimpse of it in game number 1, but now this is really them unleashed into the series. They're taking their time when they need to. They're getting the touches. And really, I don't see as many mistakes coming out from their side. This is much more efficient. If anything, the giveaways are more for trying to get too theatrical, as we see as Dino trying to get a nice little musty clear and won't be able to get the contact they're hoping for.
Yeah, but will get the goal nonetheless here. Pop-Tart Pounder actually almost makes the save on this one, but I think it's a runaway at this point. Taco, nice pass from Mala, doubtless. But Dominic Clara just a little bit behind the play, unable to get there, and then Pop-Tart Pounder follows suit. It's unfortunate, to say the least. You mentioned how they're trying to match speed. I feel like that is the play to a reasonable degree. At the same time, though, it can be incredibly mentally taxing. I mean, trying to match speed against players who are just faster than you takes a heck of a lot of effort, and they will get a freebie here. So they're not out of it yet, but still with 96 seconds to go, 3 goals is a lot to make up.
These are mechanically confident guys. I mean, Pop-Tart Pounder could have caught that. They could have tapped it, and hell, I probably would have tapped it just to make sure it's on target. But instead, they just flip as hard as possible. Get an absolute slap of a shot into the top corner. 4 shots for Pop-Tart Pounder. No one else getting a statistic in that column. Right now, it's seeing a lot of issues. We see a lot of players trying to transition out of offense, but really, if Pop-Tart isn't involved in the play, they're not finding that luck. And he even dishes a pass to Dorito, but even that one going to be a worm burner right into Mala's bumper, and we'll see another clear down with 70 seconds remaining. I think they're just hoping for a silver lining goal maybe here at the end, because I don't think they have much more really planned for the rest of this game, since already the midfield is starting to provide quite the obstacle alone.
And it is, but it's an obstacle they're overcoming at present, and I've got to be honest, there are worse looks that we've seen for teams so far today. I mean, talk about University of Michigan versus University of Michigan at Flint, and of course, as I say that, Moist Tuna will pull one in after receiving from Dino, but still, there have been worse results on the stream. There have been, well, I would posit that their Game 1 result may have been slightly better than what we're seeing right now, but still, they are making an impact. Right? It's not a complete blowout. Every goal against feels like there's 1 or 2 slight changes that they can make that turn it into at least a neutral scenario, if not a winning one at that. Nice touch here from Dorito, by the way. But still, you know, you might just have to let Game 2 go. Looking down the barrel of a reverse sweep. This is a series that, looking at it team-wise, you would not be anticipated to win. So perhaps you take this moment just to try and focus on improving your team in what ways you can lifetime and go back and look at the review.
And I think this is definitely an example of a team that it's tough because it's right on the border of a team that I think you're most likely going to lose against, but you're playing decent, and a team that you're just getting outpaced by. Because it's hard to give notes when you're playing a team that you're just really not ready for, but either whether it's the sloppiness of St. Edwards or it's just the lack of execution from Tamu, these games at times seem much more accessible. They've had shots, they just didn't execute, and eventually you will take that loss. Just like game number 1 and now game number 2 mirroring that. St. Edwards setting themselves up on match point, looking to close out our night here. But the potential sweep, and that game is much more of a statement game than game number 1. Putting in 6 goals and 8 shots just by Malakas alone is, I think, really showing you the pattern of shots and pressure that we're seeing throughout the series.
Yeah, good old Malu. I mean, when I look at the phase tag, what I think of is all the way back in the days of Modern Warfare 2 when everybody walked around with phase. Mala actually kind of deserves it. See, that's the thing. But in any case, I mean, talking about the series at hand, like I said, I feel like this might be one for Texas A&M. Just say, okay, we were never expected to win this one. So let's play for the improvement right here and right now. And if we end up taking it, then we can focus. Take it on a game-by-game basis. And then focus, you know, on the next thing, right? You know, oh, we won game 3? Excellent. Let's focus on game 4 now. What can we do to improve ourselves, right? What can we do to keep moving forward? You have to realize that if you take a defeatist standpoint here, that is the end of your series. They look like they have had the tenacity up to this point, and I can only hope that continues if they want to stay alive in this series.
And one thing I do appreciate about it is that even if they're getting beaten to certain plays, I don't think I've ever really seen them be fearful of challenges. They're getting on top of the touches, just they're finding these seams, St. Edwards, to get a goal in, and Malakas just going to streak across the field from the back corner and get one in.
And Dominic Clark, I believe, came out for the squishy save, ended up being a little bit out of position on that one. Not sure if I would have made the same play call, but still, it's only 1 goal against. It's nothing like a killing blow. They've got plenty of time to work with. Pop-Tart Pounder, off the face-off, had something of a reasonable shot there. It was always going to be long odds to try and get that one to a teammate, if not on target. Now Dino off the backward. Oh, Dino! What? Just play the replay.
Well, you gotta make sure all the angles are covered. How about from the sky? Dino placing it perfectly. And even though Dorito got a touch, that was going in on its own anyway. Brilliant shot. So little you could do to expect that. Never mind, save it. what a display by St. Edwards. They're getting the basic goals, they're getting the pressure goals, and now they're just getting the clipped goals.
I love those kinds of shots off the backboard. More than anything, I love those kinds of a la patented redirects. I'm just going to throw it out there. I really enjoy seeing them. I hate to see it in this context because I would love for Tamu to make a run back in this series. Another shot here from Mala. That was just off the crossbar, but Dorito with no boost in the tank was unable to pick up any pennies. No beans. That's the unfortunate reality is they look to try and push past the midfield. It's Dino once again in the air, always so dangerous. Dominic Clara, a nice drop down there to Pop-Tart Pounder, and it will end up in a goal against one way or the other. I mean, this was such a good idea, but the execution was lacking.
And this is just so painful because Malachus knows that they don't need a perfect shot. They just need it on target. And even more painful is they have Dorito on it, and they have just a little enough boost that they can get to the save, but if they go low, they're not going to reach it in time. If they go high, they might be able to knock it off the crossbar. They opted for the latter, and unfortunately, they did not have the touch. And either of those defenders, Malachus just crashing the goal and getting rewarded.
Man, and I just really want... I wish, can we get like some sort of morale boost here for Texas A&M? Because, Taco, I mean, it's felt like throughout the series, I'm noticing on these goals against, again, it's like small mistakes. But the remainder of the rotations on offense and defense, it actually feels relatively solid. We're not seeing macro mistakes. We're seeing mistakes in the critical moments, right? Which, of course, is one of the more important parts of Rocket League, but it seems like if they just work out these small little dents on their breastplate, then everything is going to be fine. They're going to have a rock-solid defense. They're going to be able to counterplay their opponents perfectly. And that's no small thing, again, considering that they're up against St. Edwards, who has two incredibly experienced, long-time professional players. So, I don't know. That's just my thoughts, though. I mean, I kind of want to hear what you have to say about that, right? Because it does seem like, you know, it's been a lackluster performance. But I still stand by what I said.
No, I agree. And even though it might seem like we're talking about, well, no, we're just trying to amp up a team. Yeah, they're getting beaten up, but let's not like be bullies on broadcast. I actually 100% agree with that, is that this team in St. Edwards is playing incredibly well. They're putting shots away, they're getting clips, they're getting great passes, and overall, they're just playing fast and confident. But the mistakes going in from Tamu, they're not getting beaten over the top all the time. It's just that their positioning is slightly off, or the ball will be like bounced down in a position that they're a little bit off from. And for the most part, it seems like the logic of a lot of their touches and the follows that they're getting are pretty clean. It's just that it's not good enough. And that's the difference, is that you're not getting beaten out of sheer skill. You're just getting beaten because you're not positioning yourself for success. And I think, honestly, nice replay review after this, or maybe just sitting down with some coaching. I think this could be really helpful because I do see promise in the way that they're playing. Any other team that would be disheveled, these would be double-digit score lines the way that St. Edwards is putting on pressure, but it's not. They might be getting beaten, but it's all fixable, and that's at least something you can look forward to going forward.
I mean, you mentioned we're not just hyping up this team to hype up this team, as another one will be sunk by Mala. It's actually kind of obvious, you know. I remember specific instances where I'll say to myself, like, oh no, this team is just screwing everything up, and that's what I'll basically do is for most of the series, is I'll just lament the mistakes of one team because they're clearly losing the game of their own accord. This is not that case. And I feel like the comms right now, even for Texas A&M, despite the fact that they're sitting now on the verge of a sweep, most likely not going to be able to run this one back, but it still feels like their comms are in order. I don't know if I'm alone on that one as well, but that's the kind of attitude that you need, and doing replay review for this, I think, will enlighten them as to a lot of avenues in which to improve their game. I mean, you said it, Taco, right? It's not positioning themselves for success, right? It feels like they're making intelligent plays. They're making intelligent plays based off who they've played in the past, not based off who they're playing right now.
They need to be adaptive, and right now there's just a lot to adapt to that they're not ready for. And sometimes you got to take a loss, and that's what you learn from. And right now it seems like St. Edwards is being quite the strict teacher here, as Dino is somewhat mercifully going to miss that one, as we really saw goal number 6 coming in. But this is certainly to pivot to St. Edwards, even if they are playing a team that is making those micro mistakes, and we want to hype them up for that. This team is absolutely no joke. I had whispers of them in really the side alleys of Collegiate Rocket League discords, and really Twitter posts, and this team is definitely living up to the hype. The Dino and Malachus still playing top of their game. They're getting some good pressure, and Moist Tuna is not some just diamond or gold player they picked out of nowhere who's just going to have to try and keep up. He's playing pretty well. He feels like they fit in, and I think this is definitely a team that you're going to have to look out for in the Western Conference within all of Collegiate Rocket League, but especially within NACE Starleague, because right now, as the final seconds tick away, they got their win. They're going to stay undefeated, and they're going to make another statement match here with a 5-0 victory to close out this victory over TAMU at San Antonio.
Yep, and well played, well-deserved win here for St. Edwards, but still, again, I cannot give enough credit here to Texas A&M and San Antonio. They are now 1-2 on the season, but I really want to see them run this back. I feel like there is no reason why we should see them continue to sustain losses like this one here today. This should be, for all intents and purposes, a one-off event, is being beat by St. Edwards in such a fashion. I mean, you mentioned it, Taco. We've seen clip-worthy plays. We've seen amazing coordination between the three members on the blue side of this match. There's no reason to walk away with your heads, held down, right? You got to keep your wits about you. And I really hope they do that, because we have seen teams where we say this exact same thing before, and they end up coming back, and they actually have a pretty good season. Arizona, I think, is one of the biggest ones that stands out to me in CRL Spring. The beginning of their season was a dumpster fire. It was atrocious, and they ended up making playoffs. Like we said, hey, all they gotta do is fix these small issues. We know they can do better, and then the second half of their season was great. They made it to the playoffs. I don't really recall the rest of the story from there, because I don't think they made it incredibly far, but still, you get the idea.
I mean, Summer Series, they got to the Western Conference Championship within playoffs for Summer Series, even though they were kind of mid-table team for a lot of that season. But that's not about Arizona. It's about St. Edwards, another presence here as we see the Western Conference get one more representative. And I'm very curious about the future of this team. And I think just to kind of cap off those thoughts on TAMU SA, they got dealt the loss. This is tough. You're on broadcast. You got us jerks analyzing it and giving advice and whatnot. But it is silver linings to it. You were able to take it to them at times. I think it's one thing to lose a game off mistakes. It's very frustrating, but there is an element of comfort there. You're not just getting played off the pitch. It's like, man, if I read that closer, or maybe if I didn't hit it in that slight way. And these are all individual decisions you can make a lot better, and I think it's a good thing to take from it. And I think moving forward, I'm excited to see what takes place in the future. What will take place in the future for us, though, is no more Rocket League, though. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our day here, Squid, and we've had a nice set of games here across the NACE Starleague for Rocket League, and I think we have a lot of storylines developing, and I can't wait to see what Week 4 is going to bring us.
Oh, absolutely. And the only thing that I say I'm going to regret is that we don't get to take a closer look at all of these teams because we have so many. I mean, you know how many divisions we have? Hang on. Let me look at my tournament info. We got here on the back page, right? We have 5 Midwest divisions. That's not an insignificant amount. We have a division entirely for Texas. Like, that's how many teams in Texas we have. I mean, if you even recall, like, the Summer Series, I think it was, or Summer Series or CRL, we had, like, 3 or 4. Yeah, I think it was Summer Series. Because we had the 2 divisions. I think we had 4 Texas teams in Division 1 or something like that. Like, it was ridiculous. It was absurd.
It is absolutely absurd, and that's what happens because NACE Starleague is the largest collegiate competitive ecosystem within collegiate esports, as we are so blessed to be able to bring all these games to your attention. But that is in the past. Coming up in the future, though, NACE Starleague, it usually has Overwatch, but tonight it is all Rocket League across the docket. But please tune in Tuesday as you can see some League of Legends action. Call of Duty coming up for you on Wednesday, and then on Friday, you're going to be seeing some Counter-Strike Go. I think that's actually what it's called. Not Global Offensive. It's actually just Go. Trust me on that. Play all the time. It's just Counter-Strike Go. That's how you say it. But
I would love to see you play Counter-Strike.
I don't think anyone would like to see that. I'm not a KBM person. I'll play on controller and just make everyone rage. Just very slow sensitivity. No one would want to watch that, but I think ultimately I'm going to upset everyone. I'm going to become a legend at that game. You mark my words right here. Clip it. It's going to CSGO within a year. It can't be that hard. By your expression, I think it might actually be that hard, so I guess that's a problem. But I've been Data Taco. That has been Squid, and that's going to do it for this week. Squid, it's lovely working with you yet again here in NACE Starleague. Our week is wrapped up, but can't wait to cast with you some more in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and we will be back next week for more action. Like I said, the only thing that I regret about NACE Starleague is that we have too many teams to cover and not enough time, but thankfully, we have plenty of weeks to see, so perhaps we will get some repeats. Perhaps Texas A&M at San Antonio will come back and absolutely annihilate everybody else. But in order to see that, you guys will have to tune in once again on a Monday, same time, same place. It'll be me and Taco. Well, it should be me and Taco, but yeah, it's been a great show, and I just can't wait.
Well, peace out, everyone. Have a wonderful night. And as always, tune in for more NACE Starleague collegiate esport action throughout the week. But for Rocket League, that is the end of our broadcast. Have a wonderful night and catch you guys next time.
Let me